was produced and presented by me, Tim Hewell. The editor was Penny Murphy.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on CBC. Thanks for joining us. The morning show is on until 8:37 a.m., and we are with you on day 2 of covering the wildfire situation, realizing that we had wildfires before the last couple of days. But yesterday, things really turned and took a more serious tone as we had loss of life here in Manitoba as well. So we are going to go to the news center in a moment to get the very latest this morning. We also can tell you that CBC's Corey Funk is already live on location in Lac du Bonny this morning, so we will hear from him off the top of the show. It's 3 minutes to 6 o'clock, and actually before we even say good morning to the whole team here on 89.3, let's go right to Heather Wells, who is in our news center this morning, and she has our headlines to set up the day and to talk about what we understand about where the fires are and where we're at with the activity. Hi, Heather.
Hi there. Yeah, good morning. You're right. A deadly turn to the wildfires. RCMP reporting yesterday 2 people trapped by that wildfire near Lac du Bonny have died. The bodies of a man and woman were recovered by police. RCMP say they first got the report. The 2 were trapped on Tuesday, but couldn't reach them until the following day because the conditions were so extreme. We do not yet know the identities of the 2, and that entire community of Lac du Bonny is grieving today. Now, as to another big fire in the White Shell, as of 9 this morning, the White Shell Provincial Park closes. Year-round residents, business owners, and visitors are going to have to be out by 1 this afternoon. We're going to hear from some business owners, one of whom is not at all happy, calling the province's decision to close the park a knee-jerk reaction. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells in our news center. And so here with us on the show, we have, as I mentioned, Corey Funk out live on location this morning in Lac du Bonny. Abby Adiyemi, good morning to you behind the controls of the program, our senior tech. Good morning to Brad Lillies. Hello, Brad. Brad is waving hello to you on YouTube. He is our producer of the video stream. And good morning to Chloe Friesen, who is in directing the show this morning. Hi, Chloe. Chloe's also going to be on the air covering what's happening with the weather today. So Lac du Bonny, White Shell, Nopabing, near the Paw, Piney. A lot of people are trying to understand what is going on with these wildfires, the likes of which we have not really seen in this province in this way, with these dry conditions.
With Tom Power. When the Canadian musician Luke Halla was a kid, she got bullied. But she says her response to that was to try and become as confident as possible. And that attitude has led to her having hit songs around the world about not letting others tear you down. That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Turkey for peace talks with his Russian counterpart, but Vladimir Putin won't be there. He has sent a delegation of lower-level officials to Istanbul instead. Zelensky is calling them stand-in props. He says this is Putin's war and only Putin can end it. As Crystal Gomansing reports, many European leaders agree.
The ball is now clearly in Russia's court.
NATO chief Mark Rutte says there should be no doubt anymore. Ukraine is ready to negotiate, and it is Russia that must take the next step. Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson says Vladimir Putin was the one who initiated direct talks, adding the Russian delegation in Istanbul is ready for serious work.
It's not a serious delegation.
Alex Younger is the former head of the British intelligence agency MI6.
Head of delegation is a former culture minister and amateur historian.
Vladimir Medinsky is a Kremlin aide. He's heading up the Russian delegation. He was involved in talks in 2022, which failed. The 2 leaders have not met face-to-face in 6 years.
Whatever the process is.
Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State who is in Turkey for a NATO foreign ministers meeting, says there is no military solution to the conflict.
And the sooner an agreement can be reached on ending this war, less people will die.
Ukrainians have endured 3 years of Russian bombardments as Russian forces fight to seize more Ukrainian territory. Neither country releases information on battlefield casualties, but estimates are in the hundreds of thousands. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
Hospital officials in Gaza say more than 60 people have been killed by Israeli overnight airstrikes. Injured children are treated at an overcrowded hospital in Khan Yunis. The city was hit by at least 9 separate strikes. Trent Murray is following developments from Tel Aviv. And Trent, what more can you tell us about these latest attacks?
Well, there have been a number of airstrikes in Khan Yunis in the south of Gaza, close to the European hospital where strikes happened earlier in the week. It is being reported that a lot of those strikes in Khan Yunis are trying to prevent rescuers getting to the site of the European hospital. But we are also tracking several strikes around Gaza City where evacuation orders were issued overnight by the IDF, some of the largest that we have seen around Gaza City, an area where 3 schools were located as well as a hospital. Those are areas where civilians were sheltering, seemingly because it was safe. But based on what we're hearing now, those people are being evacuated out as the IDF embarks on what it says is an intense airstrikes program in order to try and target Hamas infrastructure. We're, of course, witnessing the scenes on the ground where civilians have been caught in the crossfire. Health facilities there are struggling to treat the injured. And, of course, those health facilities are now being also targeted, it seems. Certainly the European hospital seems to be a site of continued attacks, which we are tracking based on the IDF saying that underground Hamas bunkers were under the hospital.
All right. Thank you so much, Trent.
Thank you.
Reporter Trent Murray in Tel Aviv. Prime Minister Mark Carney's government says it is taking immediate action to improve the lives of Canadians, but a federal budget is not coming anytime soon. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne says there will just be an update this year, a fall economic statement. Janice McGregor is in our parliamentary bureau. And Janice, Liberals were elected on a platform full of budgetary promises. What is going on here?
Marcia, it was clear from the photo op that they organized after Cabinet yesterday that Mark Carney's government intended the day's headline to be its follow-through on a campaign pledge to drop the income tax payable on Canadians' first $57,000 of income from 15% to 14%. But without including this as part of a larger federal budget, the House of Commons is going to be asked to approve it without any clarity on how this fits into the government's bigger fiscal plan. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne was out defending this as a consequence of the spring's tight schedule.
Timing issue in the sense that first you need to Parliament is going to come back. We're going to table legislation to enable the tax cut, which is really what Canadians I would say that's the first order of priority.
The spring's campaign, though, set an expectation that a government led by a former central banker and a governing caucus that includes MPs with impressive financial credentials would be making transformative changes to how the government does business. Without a budget, there's no line of sight, no oversight on that. Champagne says he will have an economic update, but not until the fall. Former parliamentary budget officer Kevin Page finds that unsustainable and unacceptable.
The bond rating agencies, they're not going to like the fact that the government is not producing this type of financial document.
Pierre Poilievre was scathing in a social media post yesterday, saying Mark Carney had campaigned on the slogan of plan beats no plan. And now he's confirming that, in fact, he has no plan by not tabling a budget, an abandonment of the leadership the Prime Minister had promised.
All right. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. The trade war with the U.S. is expected to dominate Ontario's budget. The provincial government is tabling it today. As Jamie Strachan reports, this is the first one since Premier Doug Ford and his Progressive Conservatives won re-election in February.
Let's not rely on
President Trump any longer. Let's start creating.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford says reducing reliance on American trade and becoming more self-reliant will be priorities in today's budget.
In the face of President Trump's tariffs, which are rising the cost of everyday essentials, we need to do even more.
There's been a flurry of pre-budget spending already, billions of dollars to speed up housing growth, retrain workers, and reduce tolls. Also a plan to defer billions in taxes. Ontario Finance Minister Peter Bethenfalsey.
That is what the budget I will be presenting is going to be about. Boosting our economic prosperity, thinking big and bold, and championing nation-building projects.
All of this will come at a cost. Ontario's relatively small $1.5 billion deficit could swell and shelve plans to balance the books by next year, says the province's former chief economist, Brian Lewis.
We are seeing slower economic growth and a potential recession arising from the trade war instigated by the American president, so that's going to affect government revenue projections.
Beyond Trump, Lewis says healthcare is a priority, things like addressing hospital wait times, also much-needed money for the province's universities and colleges.
We're going to start to see some real pressures in our provincial post-secondary education sector, and I think that's a problem because that is going to affect our ability to educate and train and attract the best and the brightest.
Another item many will be looking for, more details on a plan to build a tunnel under the 401, Canada's busiest highway. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
New Zealand's parliament is temporarily suspending 3 Maori MPs. It is believed to be the harshest ever penalty issued to parliamentarians in that country. The trio are being reprimanded for performing the haka in parliament. The ceremonial dance is often seen on sports fields before games in New Zealand. But as Georgie Smythe explains, these MPs used it to protest a government bill.
In New Zealand's parliament, a member of the Te Pari Māori Party begins performing the traditional haka song and dance while tearing up a draft bill that sought to reinterpret New Zealand's founding document, the Treaty of Waitangi. This happened in November, but a 21 and 7-day ban for the 3 participants has just been handed down. Judith Collins, the head of the committee that recommended the punishment, says the decisions were not made lightly.
We've never seen action like this in Parliament.
It's a stricter ruling than I think a lot of people expected outside of the party.
Fox Meyer is a political reporter with the media organisation Newsroom in Wellington. He says the suspensions are the longest in parliamentary history.
It was the setting itself that was what the Privileges Committee saw as the problem. It was the advancing across the floor of the House, the pointing and gesturing at another party in the middle of a debate.
The bill the group was protesting, which sought to change the rights of Māori and non-Māori in the country, was eventually defeated, but not before sparking massive protests across New Zealand. The decision of whether to carry out the temporary suspension of the Māori Party members will be voted on next week. And like the defeated bill, the fallout from this debate around Indigenous issues might last longer than any suspensions. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. And if you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So here we are at Thursday morning, May 15th, and we should be thinking about long weekends, but instead we are talking about wildfires in this province, and that is because things are becoming very serious. We're about to hear in the news about what is going to be coming later today, some of the closures of provincial parks, where fires are burning, where they're out of control. We will be live in Lac du Bonnet all morning, and that is because CBC's Corey Funk is already on site there, and as you have heard, that was the site where the area where 2 people lost their lives lives in fires, and that was announced yesterday from RCMP. So we're on top of the wildfire situation for you. In addition, this hour on the program, in Gaza, people continue to hang on to life with little or no resources. We're going to talk to political journalist Paul Waldman, who's going to describe what's happening. So we will take you there for some more insight on that as well. Right now, though, to the wildfire news and more news. Heather Wells is in with our headlines at 6:11.
Good morning. Well, a community is grieving this morning after 2 people died. They were trapped by the wildfire near Lac du Bonny. The bodies of a man and woman were recovered by police. RCMP say they first got the report on Tuesday. 2 people were trapped, but the extreme conditions kept officers from reaching them until yesterday, and it was too late. Wildfires dealing a heavy blow to vacationers and businesses in and around one of Manitoba's largest and most popular provincial parks. No one will be allowed to enter Whiteshell Provincial Park starting at 9 this morning, and everyone who's there already has to be out by 1 this afternoon. We're going to hear from a business owner coming up. As well, 24 active wildfires are burning in the province. That is the total at this last report. Officials say 6 of those fires need the most attention. One fire at Nopaming Provincial Park is more than 100,000 hectares in size. That is double the size of Winnipeg. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
So we need rain and we need the wind to calm down. And unfortunately, it looks like a lot of where this, the raining conditions are going to be in the wrong side of the province. Let's get into the forecast. Chloe Friesen is in this morning to walk us through what we understand about that. Good morning.
Good morning. We are looking at rain, but as you said, in a different part of the province here. A rainfall warning is in effect for Melita and Boissevain, the Turtle Mountain area. So rain at times heavy is expected. 50 to 70 millimeters of rain is likely by Friday afternoon. So parts of southwest Manitoba expecting some rain. Also, air quality warnings in effect for parts of southern Manitoba and much of the province here actually. Added to that warning is the RM of Grahamdale, Jackhead Reservation, the RM of West Interlake, Barons River, and Waterhen Meadow Portage. So that is on top of much of southern Manitoba that is under that air quality warning. So that smoke from wildfires, which has affected our city in Winnipeg here for a few hours, is expected to return to the entire Red River Valley and parts of the Interlake today. Very poor air quality and reduced visibility can be expected at times. The smoke should be clearing from Winnipeg and the Red River Valley on Friday, tomorrow, as winds shift more to the north, but is, of course, expected to continue over the Whiteshell and Sprague area. Some current conditions right now in Winnipeg, 10 degrees, partly cloudy, looking at mainly cloudy skies with 30% chance of showers this morning, beginning around noon with a risk of a thunderstorm, a high of 24. In Brandon, 7 degrees, rain shower expected, risk of thunderstorm as well, could amount to 5 to 10 millimeters of rain with local smoke. Dauphin, 6 degrees with light rain, forecasted to be a high of 8. Gimli, 8 degrees. Thompson, 1 degree. In Churchill, it's -4. And I'll focus a bit on Whiteshell and Lac du Bonny, this area today. Mix of sun and cloud, expected 30% chance of showers earlier this morning, 60% chance of showers this afternoon with a risk of a thunderstorm, and that widespread smoke as well. I'll keep you updated on how things change in the forecast here. Also taking a look at the commute. Nothing to mention at the moment. If you do spot something, please call us 204-788-3093.
Well, Chloe said it. We have a mixed bag of things. Now, the other thing is we're on the other side of, at least in parts of Manitoba, the extreme heat, which might help things as well. You're going to feel that in Winnipeg as you walk out the door this morning compared to the last few days. And then it's going to get really cool by the time we get into the weekend. The Whiteout Party tonight, looking at that, right? The Jets at home trying to play for their life. And so that's going to be a little bit cool, I think, tonight. Cooler than it has been, at least. Right now, let's take you live out to Lac du Bonny. Corey Funk was on the road early this morning, and he joins us via Zoom live. He's standing right by the water this morning, and it's so hard, Corey, to wrap our heads around all this because we're the shot that I'm looking at on YouTube as we speak this morning looks beautiful in such a devastating time. So what can you tell us about what your drive up was like and what the weather feels like there? And
Yeah, on my way in today, actually, there was a little bit of rain, just little spots, patches of rain on the way in here. But it is clear right now here in Lac du Bonnet. I'm on the dock, right kind of on the Winnipeg River right now, and it is you can smell the smoke in the air, but it is oddly calm and clear. Right now, but that is in stark contrast to what is right behind me, about 4 kilometers northeast of here. That's the site, of course, of the deadly and destructive Wendigo Beach fire. You can actually hear it kind of sounds like the whirring of helicopters or airplanes in the distance. So you can tell that clearly there's a lot going on not far away from here right now. But here in town, things are fairly quiet as folks are kind of just starting to wake up. But, I did run into one person on the way in here who was just having breakfast just kind of right on the at the end of the dock here. And he was supposed to go work in the White Shell this morning, but of course that is closed. So people here, I think a lot of people in one way or another, big or small, are all impacted by this fire in one way. And that's why I'm here to kind of understand what those impacts are for folks here in the community.
Yeah, and I know you're with us through the morning. So the sound you hear very much might be water bombers starting. As we said, you're hearing it but not seeing it. Also, I know you were on the phone yesterday. So we have a number of fires around the province. Lac du Bonnet, though, is where the loss of life was. Not the town where you're going to be this morning, but the surrounding RM. So this morning, I know that you're going to be in town and you're going to be around Drifters. It was packed yesterday when you called there. That's the restaurant people might know, right on the highway. It's like a 24-hour kind of spot. And they were just busy with folks.
Right. Well, it is right at the intersection of 11 and 313, and that's pretty much right where the 313 is closed, right there, where it starts, because that's going to be the access point for firefighters to get actually to the fire. There's only the people that are allowed through there, obviously, to go fight it. And it was they were busy feeding firefighters yesterday, so I'm heading there after this. I'm going to meet the Reeve, Lauren Schenkel of Lac du Bonnet. There just after 7 o'clock. We're going to get an update on the fire then, but I'm also hoping to chat with people there to see what the impact is as well. I'm going to head to the community center after 8 and chat with the mayor of Lac du Bonnet, Ken Lodge, as well. And just a heads up here, Marcia, I do see a thundercloud coming over this way. It actually gave a couple thunder booms. So I think a lot of people are also going to be, as much as they're looking across the river today, they're going to be looking up, hoping that the sky can get some relief today as well. So I'll be keeping an eye on that too.
Yeah, we'll see if the weather cooperates. All right, Corey, thank you very much for setting up what you'll be doing out there, and reach us anytime with any news.
Yeah, will do. Thank you.
So it's going to be some sorrow where Corey is today with the loss of life there. And so we'll learn more about that through the day. Corey Funk's been live at the dock, as he said, in Lac du Bonnet, right on the water's edge there. So we'll touch base with him as the morning continues. 6:18 is the time right now. You're on CBC. We're keeping you in touch with what is happening with the wildfires in our province. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Well, through all of the devastating news about the fires and evacuations, there is also, of course, the spirit of Manitobans, as we do, coming together to help one another. Often in flood times, now in fire times. Livestock manager Brendan Jack is my next guest. He's not only offering to help his fellow farmers and evacuees, but their animals as well. Now, he is manager of Heartland Livestock Services in Virden, Manitoba, so way out on the other part of the province. But let's remember that we have fires burning across the province in many different areas. So we have Lac du Bonnet, but Whiteshell, Nopaming, and then over in the Paw as well. Good morning, Brendan.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing better than all the folks that are struggling with these fires. Tell me what led to you, wanting to offer some help. What were you thinking?
Last week we had one of my good friends here that works for us here at the stockyards had a fire, kind of rip across their land and get very close to their farm and their corrals, and it just led to me offering the facility to any of our customers or any people that even aren't our customers to the facility. In my previous career, I worked in the market in Prince Albert, so I'm very, very aware of wildfires and the damage that can occur. So we just wanted to offer our facility that can handle 5,000-6,000 head very comfortably for anybody that's in need. Thankfully, our area is getting a lot of rain right now, so that's what kind of got things rolling.
Prompted you. Yeah, your area is getting a lot of rain right now to the west. As we're saying, the east is really needing more of it. So hopefully there'll be a change there. Given that, you saw this happen to a friend and you said, you used to work in another province and understand fires. Before this rain, how concerning were the conditions around you with the dryness we've had in Manitoba?
Yeah, it was not good at all. In this part of the world here, in the past decades, normally the spring times are pretty wet. Just with the changes of some of the weather patterns, we had really a little bit of snow here in April, but virtually no other moisture, and kind of that plus 30-degree temperatures with a heavy wind kind of made it like a convection oven. So it just dried out the topsoil and dried out any of that vegetation that was left. So anything that wasn't grazed by livestock was really very dangerous. Anytime you had any land that was left that wasn't maybe properly cared for, man, anybody just throws a cigarette butt or does something, even just going for a drive with your truck or your quad or something, and one spark is all it takes in that extremely dry conditions. So we were definitely all nervous in this part of the world. Thankfully, we are definitely going to be out of that hazard. But it doesn't take very long, couple hours away, and you can be, like you said, with the weather, looking for moisture, and we are maybe getting a little bit too much. If we could spread it around just a little bit, would be great.
I'm glad you brought up the dangers here. So let's remember here, we have bans. Not only are parks going to close, like White Shell, and obviously you're staying away from Nopaming, but in other parts of the province, I mean, we have ATV back road bans because of the sparking. And someone wrote on Facebook they saw someone throw a cigarette butt out the window. I mean, absolutely crazy. I want to ask you this. You made the offer to take on livestock. Has anyone taken you up on your offer yet?
As soon as we posted it, we had several people contact us that were, very close to the fires and definitely made contact that if things did get a little bit too close, they were going to get them loaded up and moved out of here. It's not, dealing with larger livestock is not the same as leaving your house with your dog and your cat and your family and getting out of there. Most farmers, their option is to open the fence or just abandon them. It just depends what it is, right? So it's a very, very grim situation. So, the call basically is to go out to people that if you do get in the situation, to have an evacuation plan, and this is going to be a standing order for us so that anybody going forward in Manitoba or Saskatchewan, if they need a spot to go for a few days to get those livestock out of danger, it costs a few dollars to get them moved over and out of harm's way, and then we can easily get them back to your place once that fire threat has passed. So it's always something that I find, knowing people across North America, that we really live in a country where we don't really deal with a ton of natural disasters. People in the southern U.S., deal with tornado threats every year. It's no big deal. I was down in Iowa several years ago, and
but it's newer to us.
It was like a scene out of Twister, and nobody seemed to care. And here, we don't really seem to prepare for those things like fire, because we don't see it that often.
Not in this way, for sure, either, right? In our last minute here, I just want to ask you, I mean, obviously the financial impacts of the losses on folks that might be going through this would be huge if they don't have a place to send their animals. But you're also offering to feed and water potentially 6,000 animals by doing this. What does that financial impact look like for you at the end of the day?
Well, I mean, I think that it's the right thing to do. And the reality is, we're in business because we have producers that raise the stock that we sell. So without those producers, we don't have a business. So I think it's something that worst case scenario, if we did have to house 6,000 head, of course there was going to be some financial burden, but I think the reality is, if somebody's livestock are threatening to be burnt up in a huge fire, I think it's the right thing to do to get them out of there and look after those customers. And people tend to put their livestock ahead of themselves, And we certainly don't want to have anybody lose their life in trying to protect their livestock. I'd rather they plan ahead and do it that way.
Real quick, Brandon, Jack, where do people reach you?
They can just give me a call, 306-641-9285. If you need help day or night, just give us a call. We've got a crew of people here that if we need to send crews out or send trucks out to help you get them rounded up, we're certainly ready to do that. And everybody has somebody close to them that can probably take their livestock, but sometimes they're in danger too.
And you need help. Yep.
We're right along the number 1 highway, so we're here to help.
Thank you very much for what you're doing in community, and thank you very much for being with CBC.
Appreciate it. Thank you, and just watch out what you're doing, folks, and follow those fire bans.
Brendan Jack, manager of Heartland Livestock Services in Virden, offering to hold and feed livestock for anyone who's needing to evacuate from their properties and move animals. 306-641-9285. I'll repeat that later as well, and you can look that up online. It is 6:26 a.m. Well, we have a busy show this morning. We can tell you that in downtown Winnipeg right now, we are partly cloudy and 10 degrees. And of course, we'll have more local news coming up in minutes. Right now, though, we do want to spend just some time looking at what is happening internationally as U.S. President Donald Trump continues his tour in the Middle East, making business deals, while people in Gaza Strip are facing renewed Israeli airstrikes this week and mounting hunger. Paul Waldman's columnist for MSNBC. He's here to talk about what's happening in Gaza. Good morning.
Morning.
What has happened? Can you sum up for people with the latest Israel airstrikes on Gaza and the impact?
Yeah, there have been a new round of strikes over the last 3 days. The latest I saw from this morning said that around 60 people were killed today, but we've often seen how those numbers will rise over the course of the day as more people are recovered. It seems to be a signal from the Israeli government that Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, is determined to keep the war going. He's under a lot of different kinds of pressure right now. There was a poll I recently saw that showed that 69% of the Israeli public wants an immediate end to the war, where Israel would stop the war and Hamas would release all the hostages. But Netanyahu refuses. He says that they're not going to stop until all of Hamas is completely eradicated. And so you have a situation now where the bombings continue, and the Gaza Strip has been closed off to food aid since March. And we have an increasingly desperate situation there where, according to the UN, about a fifth of the population is facing imminent starvation. And Israel is refusing to let aid in. And so right now, even though Gaza may not be dominating the headlines the way it once was, the situation there is as dire as it ever was.
Yeah, they were using the word famine earlier this week. I want to ask you about U.S. President Donald Trump on the Middle East, as I mentioned. What are the hopes for a ceasefire to end the war while he is there?
Well, he is not going to Israel on this trip. He's going around to Gulf countries where he's announcing business deals for the U.S. and for his family. And, his attention can be somewhat sporadic. Now, he has a better relationship with Netanyahu than Joe Biden did, even though Biden gave Netanyahu pretty much whatever he wanted. If Trump wanted to, he could put much more pressure on Netanyahu to bring things to a close. And it's clear from Trump's comments that he would like the war to just be over, but he doesn't seem to be too eager to invest too much of his own energy into it. And so, you have ongoing negotiations going on. And the U.S. did negotiate directly with Hamas to obtain the release of Eitan Alexander, who was the last living American hostage. He's a dual U.S.-Israeli citizen who was released a few days ago. And that was a little bit embarrassing for Netanyahu that the U.S. accomplished this when Netanyahu's government either couldn't or wasn't interested in doing so. And so that was a big celebration in Israel for his release. But Netanyahu is kind of sending a message that despite that, he is in no hurry to end the war.
So we'll have to watch what happens very carefully in that relationship in the coming days, weeks, and hopefully not months, but months probably ahead. Paul, thank you very much. As you know, we had time just to really look at a snapshot of this due to our wildfire situation, but we appreciate you being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Paul Waldman, columnist for MSNBC. You're listening to CBC's Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg, and with the latest news from Manitoba, here now is Heather Wells.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it's 10 degrees. Expect showers around noon today with a risk of a thunderstorm and widespread smoke coming from those wildfires. We're going to have a strong east wind as well. A high today of 24. It was a deadly turn to those fires burning throughout Manitoba. RCMP say 2 people trapped by wildfire near Lac du Bonnet died. The bodies of a man and woman recovered by police. RCMP say they first got a report 2 people were trapped on Tuesday, but couldn't reach them until the following day because conditions were so extreme. Lauren Schinkel is the reeve of the RM of Lac du Bonnet.
The whole community will be grieving with the family, pending the outcome of the RCMP investigation that we're going to respect in the meantime. But we are a close-knit community.
Hot, dry conditions and wind have led to several large fires throughout the province, and the province has issued a series of evacuation orders forcing hundreds from their homes. And among those evacuation orders is a provincial park. A heavy blow dealt to vacationers and businesses in and around Manitoba's largest, one of the largest and most popular parks. No one will be allowed to enter Whiteshell Provincial Park starting at 9 o'clock this morning. Everyone who is in there now must be out by 1 this afternoon. Sean Harbottle owns Crescent Beach Cottages at West Hawk Lake. He says closing the whole park is a knee-jerk reaction.
We have no say. If we were an RM, it'd be go to a council, they'd have a vote, and they would decide what to do. We have no say in this.
May long weekend marks the start of the summer season, and Harbottle says the decision to close the Whiteshell Park will have a big impact on his bottom line. Greg Fatoma owns Brereton Lake Resort. While he agrees with the province's decision to close the park, he admits it's a loss for his business during the most profitable time of the season.
May long weekend is the guaranteed big weekend for all of us out here in the park, all the resorts. We rely on it. We rely on the fact that people come through our door, utilize our services, and enjoy the park so that we can pay our bills and continue on to do our business.
Fatoma says the resort was fully booked for the weekend, and now he is forced to provide refunds until the park reopens. Well, right now, 24 active wildfires are burning in the province. Officials say 6 need the most attention. One fire at Nopaming Provincial Park is more than 100,000 hectares. That is double the size of Winnipeg. We are going to hear from the Premier in just a couple of hours from now. Wab Kinew is scheduled to speak about the wildfires at 9 o'clock this morning. Rural conservative MLAs say some Manitobans can't get through to 911 in a wildfire emergency. Conrad North lives near Zoda, that's in southeast Manitoba. Last night, his neighbor's garage was destroyed by a wildfire. North says another neighbor tried to call 911 for help. After a few tries, they instead called the fire chief on his personal cell phone. North says crews were able to save the neighbor's home.
It's concerning for my constituency right now, being under immediate risk of active wildfires, that as people's homes are under threat, that they won't be able to access 911 services.
The Tories believe it is a problem with the service provider. They say the infrastructure minister is responsible for 911 services and should investigate. A McGregor area farmer has to wait at least 5 months for his stolen truck to be back on the road. The truck was recovered with a broken tailgate, a broken back window, along with a crushed radiator. Clint Sigurdsson says he called many shops looking for someone to repair his truck.
I'd phoned everybody from Winnipeg to Virden, Manitoba, and they all gave me the same story, that they don't do theft claims.
Sigurdsson eventually found a shop willing to do the repairs in Winkler. Winnipeg mechanic Johnny Vernos tells CBC shops often turn down stolen car repairs because they take time and they are not a moneymaker. MPI says it wants to help speed things up. It is considering allowing temporary repairs to get vehicles back on the road until the full repairs can be done. Well, to the Stanley Cup playoffs now, and the Edmonton Oilers are moving on to the Western Conference Finals.
It's loose. It's in. Edmonton has won the game and the series. Kasperi Kapanen in overtime.
Edmonton beating the Las Vegas Golden Knights 1-0 last night to wrap their second-round series in 5 games. The Florida Panthers beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 6-1. Florida now leads that series 3-2, and the Winnipeg Jets hope to hang on, hope they can live following this game tonight. It is an elimination game. The Jets and the Dallas Stars tonight here at Canada Life Centre. That game starts at 8:30, and the Stars lead the Jets 3-1. You can find more Manitoba news and the very latest on the wildfire situation at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Oh, I hope they win this game tonight.
I don't know if I can watch.
I know, right? I feel nervous about it. Did you see any of what happened in Toronto last night?
I
with
didn't,
the Leafs?
but you did.
I don't know what the final score is. I at 5 minutes left in the game, it was 6-0 for the Panthers. And Toronto fans are so harsh. Like when we have a bad game here, if the Jets are having an off game, it is what it is. People might thin out in the crowd. They were booing them.
Yeah.
Like their own team. Yeah.
Well, the Leafs did manage one goal. It was 6-1 was the final.
Okay, so they scored at the end of the game, but wow. All right, we'll see how the Jets do tonight. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
It is 6:36 a.m. You're with CBC, live downtown. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at the show. Let's get into our regional forecast. It, of course, is an important one. We're taking a change in the temperature in some places today, and there is a little rain. It might not be where we need it, but Chloe's in to walk us through what's happening. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Let's start with that rain. We are looking at a rainfall warning for areas like Melita, Boissevain, Turtle Mountain, Verdun, and Souris. So heavy rain is expected, about 50 to 70 millimeters of rain expected likely by Friday afternoon. That's going to continue today with showers and thunderstorms with some steady rain kind of continuing on and off until Friday afternoon. Also, air quality warnings. That's something to mention for parts of southern Manitoba and much of the province, actually. So smoke causing or expected to cause poor air quality and reduced visibility. We've got some areas added to this warning. That's the RM of Grahamdale, the Jackhead Reservation, RM of West Interlake, Barons River, and Waterhen Meadow Portage. This is being added to places like City of Winnipeg, Steinbach, Selkirk, Dugald, Portage, Morden, and of course Nopaming Provincial Park and the White Shell, Sprague. So be aware of that poor air quality. Some current conditions here in Winnipeg right now, 10 degrees, partly cloudy. Mainly cloudy skies today, 30% chance of showers in Winnipeg this morning, beginning near noon with the risk of a thunderstorm, a high of 24. Heading into the weekend on Friday, looking at more rain, could amount to 5 to 10 millimeters. Wind north 30, gusting to 50. So windy conditions and some rain for your Friday afternoon tomorrow. In Brandon, 6 degrees right now with rain showers, and the risk of a thunderstorm could amount to 5 to 10 millimeters of rain. Tomorrow in Brandon, rain continuing with hazy skies. In Dauphin, currently 6 degrees with some light rain as well. Tomorrow in Dauphin, periods of rain continuing. Wind north 50, gusting to 70. So windy conditions in Dauphin. In Gimli, 8 degrees at the moment. Looking at rain today continuing into tomorrow. Thompson, 1 degree in Thompson with partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow we could see some rain in Thompson as well. Churchill, -3 at the moment with some light snow. Focusing in on the Whiteshell, Lac du Bonnet, these areas where the wildfires are causing issues, of course. We're looking at a mix of sun and cloud today in those areas. 30% chance of showers early this morning, 60% chance of showers this afternoon with a risk of a thunderstorm, and of course that widespread smoke. Tomorrow in the Whiteshell, mainly cloudy skies, 60% chance of showers in the afternoon. On the commute quickly, traffic signals flashing Donald and Graham. Treat that as an always stop and proceed with caution.
All right, thanks very much, Chloe. Chloe Friesen covering weather and the commute this morning, 21 minutes to 7 o'clock. Now, we are going to go to business news in a moment, but first we are actually going to take you back to Lac du Bonny because this is, developing, and we have Corey Funk live on location this morning in the town of Lac du Bonny, and you have a guest with you, Corey, and you look like you're indoors, so where are you now?
Right now, and I walked in and I'm here with Carol Ford, who's a server here, and she's been very, very busy the past 2 days. Hi, Carol.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Just give us an idea just how busy it's been here since the fires have broken out.
Well, it's been absolutely insane in town. People are displaced everywhere. We lost 2 local people to the fire, and people are devastated.
We're actually going to come back to Corey in a moment because we're just having somewhat of a challenge with the sound. So we're going to get that fixed. And while we do that and take you back to Lac du Bonny, we are going to go live to Crystalie Ramlakan now, who is also joining us this morning, but with business news in her regular report. Hi there, Crystalie.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So we're starting actually with a grocery store executive that is warning that food prices could start increasing. So why is that?
Yeah, that's because Loblaws CEO Per Bank says the number of tariff-hit products at the grocery store could soon spike as pre-tariff inventory runs out, which means prices will go up. He says the company has marked the about 1,000 products that have been affected by tariffs, but he says that will rise to more than 3,000 within the next week or two and could peak at over 6,000 within the next 2 months. So Bank says while the tariff situation might be improving between the U.S. and other countries, that's not yet the case for Canada. And he says customers will notice changes in categories such as natural foods, pantry staples, and health and beauty products. And Bank says he is pleased, though, that the federal government has changed its counter-tariff policies to limit the charges on finished food products coming in from the U.S. So last month, the government announced several adjustments to its $60 billion in counter tariffs, including a 6-month suspension of counter tariffs on a broad range of U.S. goods used in Canadian manufacturing, processing, and packaging. So that means, for example, a Canadian company could import an ingredient that it uses in, making another product without the additional counter tariffs, but that same ingredient for retail sale would not be exempt.
Let's go to another story. Canada Post has hit pause right now on negotiations with the union. What's going on?
Yes, so workers at Canada Post could be heading back to the picket lines in a matter of days. And a labor expert warns postal workers might find negotiating conditions far less favorable now than they were during their holiday job action. So Canada Post is pausing on negotiations after days of talks between the two parties bore little progress. The Crown Corporation says the pause will allow the Postal Service to come back with comprehensive proposals that it hopes can move discussions forward. Now, the union has shot back at this, calling the pause a tactic and noting that there's a timeline for presenting new proposals anyway. So the union says, given the seriousness of the matter, it is reprehensible to keep workers and the public on edge when they should all be focused on negotiating good collective agreements that will benefit workers and grow the public service to meet the needs of all Canadians. So the federal government asked the Federal Labor Board to send workers back on the job in December, as I'm sure people remember. That's when talks were at an impasse and a strike was disrupting holiday mail deliveries. Now, that reprieve expires on May 22nd, at which point a renewed labor dispute could again bring mail service to a halt.
And just before markets, briefly, you have labor news when it comes to Air Canada.
Yeah, so the union representing flight attendants has filed for conciliation with the federal labor minister after reaching an impasse in contract negotiations. So the union, which represents 10,000 Air Canada flight attendants, says its top priority is boosting compensation. It says an entry-level full-time salary is roughly $1,951 a month. And the previous contract with the airline, which has been in effect since 2015, expired in March. And the union says since then, since 2015, workloads have soared, the cost of living has skyrocketed, and working conditions are getting worse by the day. So the union also wants to close what it calls loopholes in the Canada Labour Code that it says allows airlines to force flight attendants to work an average of 35 hours per month without pay. So it says members complete certain tasks without compensation, such as boarding and deplaning, assisting passengers with mobility issues, and performing pre-flight safety checks. So Air Canada says it plans to work to reach a deal that recognizes flight attendants' value contributions. And once a federal conciliation officer is appointed, there will be a 60-day period for them to work with the airline and the union, followed by a 3-week cooling off period. And the union says if there's no agreement reached by then, it may give 72 hours notice of job action and a strike vote after a strike vote has been taken.
What are the numbers telling us?
In Europe, markets are trading lower. Germany is down, the UK is up, France is down. In Asia, markets are mostly falling. Japan is down, Shanghai is down, Hong Kong is down. Oil is down $2.23 to $60.92 US per barrel. Gold is down $2 to $3,174.10 US per ounce. And the dollar is up 0.01 of a cent to 71.5 cents US.
All right. Thanks very much, Crystalie.
Thanks, Marcy.
Crystalie Ramlichan with our business news on CBC. It's 6:45 a.m. It is 10 degrees in Winnipeg. It's partly cloudy. It's raining in Brandon. It's 6 degrees. We just had a guest on from Verdun, actually, who said it was pretty heavy already. And in Thompson, it's mostly cloudy and 1. It is not yet pouring in Lac du Bonnet, and they may get some precipitation today, but they need a lot. That is one of the places in this province where fires continue to burn. There are 24 active wildfires this morning, and we have 5 parks, 3 local authorities, 3 Northern Affairs communities, and 24 cottage subdivisions that have mandatory evacuation orders in place. The White Shell will close the park at 9 a.m. That means that residents have to get out by 9, and by 1 o'clock, everyone out of the whole park. So lots developing. Lac du Bonnet, let's go back there. Corey Funk is live, and he's at a familiar spot. If you've ever been there, about an hour and a half north of Winnipeg, you're going to find drifters at the intersection of Highway 11 and 313, a popular spot, and for people to stop, have a breakfast. But Corey's there with someone who's been really busy. Corey, who are you with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm here with Carol Fortin. She's worked here as a server for 26 years. Hi, Carol.
Hi.
We were both wincing, weren't we, as the sun started pouring through the windows here, because it's just where you're hoping for clouds and rain, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
So just tell us a little bit how busy it's been the past few days since the fire's broken out just across the river here.
Well, it's been very busy, and we're trying to feed the local people as well as all the firefighters that are just doing a tremendous job going day and night. There's nothing else to say. We're just praying for the people who lost their lives and hoping they can get this under control soon.
Well, what kind of stories are you hearing from people coming through? I imagine there must be a lot of people who have evacuated, things like that. What's been sticking out to you?
Well, everyone's feeling very displaced and, worried about their homes and things. So, yeah, absolutely. Everyone's on edge and wondering what are they going to do.
Have you heard of anyone who has lost their home yet?
Oh, I do know a couple people who lost their homes. Yeah, for sure. There's homes that were lost.
And, of course, 2 people have lost their lives as well.
Yes, and that's the worst part. The whole community is absolutely devastated by that, hearing that news.
A small town like this, I imagine it must be sending some shockwaves.
Yep, it sure is.
You've been here 26 years. You live in town here in Lac du Bonnet, so luckily you are displaced yourself. But just tell me a little bit. Carol's, you could tell she's still working here. But have you ever seen a fire like this before in the area?
No, I haven't personally, and not this close. We've had fires, but I've never seen one this close.
And you ever had to deal with evacuations like this too?
No. Well, we have up in the parks and Bird Lake and that, but not so close to town.
And it seems like the community, though, is really stepping up for everyone around. And what else has the community been doing to help people out? And especially here at Drifters too?
Well, just again, trying to get people fed and placed somewhere to stay, and the local Lactabani Community Center has a registration site, and people can get information from there. And yeah, it's just been chaotic, praying for snow and get some moisture in this, let some people get back to their lives and clear the smoke and carry on.
What have you heard about the firefighters coming through here? What have they been telling you?
Still a lot of hot spots is what I've heard. And, but they're not talking, like they're busy. There's no one, they're in and out, they're ordering food, massive orders of food for the firefighters. And so it's just trying to feed everyone, and they're trying to get everyone. We had water bombers the other day going over. It was really scary, really close.
Well, Carl, I'll let you get back to work. Thanks so much for all the work you're doing for the community here, and thanks for chatting with me.
Thank you.
Back to you, Marcy.
All right. Thank you, too, for being with us. Corey Funk is live from Drifters, and he's going to be live, actually, in Lactabani throughout the morning. He's going to have the Reeve and the mayor on live, the Reeve for the RM and the mayor of the town. Now, let's remember, you're hearing Carol there talking at Drifters about how close the community is, people stepping up in the loss of life. This is a town of, some 1,000 people, just over 1,000 people in Lactabani. And it's a beautiful place, right? It's a place where people come together and enjoy the outdoor life and close-knit. And so that devastating news and the loss of life that we're referring to is, of course, the wildfires claiming the lives of 2 Manitobans. Yesterday, RCMP confirming they have recovered the bodies of a man and a woman. They were trapped as a wildfire burned near that southeastern Manitoba community. So more on the wildfire around Lactabani and the other areas of the province coming up throughout the program and on the news. It is 9 minutes now to 7 a.m. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at Information Radio. 10 in Winnipeg, partly cloudy. 6 in Brandon, light rain right now. Thompson, mostly cloudy, 1 degree. In Winnipeg, we do have a chance of showers this morning, beginning near noon, a risk of a thunderstorm, and it's going to be windy, winds east 30 to 50. So this is a turn in the weather for Winnipeg we were waiting for. Tonight, more rain, risk of a thunderstorm, and a low to 11. And then tomorrow, rainy, windy. And tomorrow, our low, Friday into Saturday, is going to be 0. So there's going to be a drastic change from the highs of 30 and 34 that we were seeing the last few days. Well, next on the show, let's switch gears here and look at Prime Minister Carney announcing the creation of Canada's new Ministry of Artificial Intelligence earlier this week when he was rolling out his cabinet. Former journalist Evan Solomon is the first minister appointed to lead it. The ministry will focus on boosting AI adoption and expanding training programs. David Gerhardt is here to talk about it. He's head of the Department of Computer Science at the University of Manitoba. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what role do you think this new ministry could play as we look at the future of Canada?
I think it sets a vision that this is a strategic area for the government. This is something that the government recognizes as an area of importance in the world, and sets a clear mandate that there's work to be done here in terms of setting policy, in terms of supporting businesses and institutions that want to deploy AI, as well as the possibility of implementing some AI tools within the federal government service itself.
Like what? What are you thinking of when you say that?
Well, I think it looks like the government is interested in using AI tools within the federal government, within the bureaucracy, within public service, to optimize its processes, to handle some of the activities that the government is used to doing, recognizing that there is a potential for strategic advantage when you can deploy some of these tools. Again, taking into account the fact that these tools, while powerful, also have some risks that are inherent in the use of them.
What do you think of the choice of Evan Solomon to be the first, leader of the new ministry?
I would say it's an interesting choice. There's a lot of conversation online around whether or not there would have been a person that has some technological background, some expertise in terms of the subject matter of the area. But Mr. Solomon has a strong background in communication, in building community, building teams that can do this important work. And so my hope is that he will collect a cohort of experts that can advise on the technical aspects of the field while being able to set policy and set a mandate for moving the field forward in the federal government.
What do you think the challenges are going to be in getting more businesses to adopt AI?
I think right now the real challenge is a shifting public sentiment. In the early days of AI, there was a lot of excitement around these tools, a lot of encouragement to say these are going to solve all of our problems and do all sorts of things. But today there's a lot of uncertainty in the public. Built with AI is not necessarily the strong positive indication that it used to be. And so one of the big things is going to be about building trust. It's going to be about making sure that the public understands that these tools can be deployed safely and can be deployed carefully in appropriate and reasonable ways.
What about the opportunities for Canada moving forward? And maybe because you're in Manitoba, I don't know if you can localize it that much, David, but how do you feel about where Canada and our province is headed with AI?
Yeah, I think our province particularly is doing some really good work. There is a new sector council called MAPE, the Manitoba Association of AI Professionals, that is starting to drive forward some interest in the area and making sure that there is support and structures in place for businesses that want to grow their AI footprint. Canada as a whole has been an AI leader in the past. I mean, the tools famously have been sort of invented and deployed here in Canada first. But there is also some recognition that perhaps we're lagging a little bit in terms of our ability to set regulation, to set policy, to sort of drive the field forward. So seeing that there is now a federal priority in terms of supporting businesses with tax incentives, with funding models, shows that there is some interest in a strategic advantage that Canada could have.
Help me understand what size of business you think that will be most quickly and that AI will be most beneficial to. Is it all sizes, or are we talking big businesses are going to be the early adopters of this, or small businesses? I don't have a sense of that.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that there are, large corporations are already starting to find places where they can, find use for AI tools within their larger structures. Small businesses, I think, is a place where the government seems to really want to encourage some deployment. And when I have conversations with business about this stuff, part of the conversation is we recognize that AI is a thing that everybody is doing. It's a thing we want to do, but we're not quite sure what that means. I want to do AI, but I'm not sure how. And so that's going to be one of the conversations is around looking at key strategic areas in small businesses where, where decisions can be made, where strategy can be deployed, where you can build a tool that can make your business more profitable, more effective. I mean, these are all very broad statements, and this is part of the problem is that the promise of AI has been do things better, but the specifics can sometimes be difficult to nail down.
Thank you very much for your analysis today. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, you're very welcome.
That's David Gerhard with us, head of the Department of Computer Science at the University of Manitoba, talking about the new ministry that we have. So former journalist Evan Solomon is the first minister appointed to lead the Ministry of Artificial Intelligence that was created and announced earlier this week. It's 3 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's return to our CBC Manitoba News Centre live now with Heather Wells in our updates.
Good morning. Well, a community is grieving this morning after 2 people died when they were trapped by wildfire near Lac du Bonnet. The bodies of a man and woman were recovered by police. Police say they first had a report about the 2 people being trapped on Tuesday, but extreme conditions kept them from reaching them until yesterday. Right now, 24 active wildfires are burning in the province. Officials say 6 need the most attention. Evacuation orders have been issued for 5 provincial parks, including Whiteshell Provincial Park, where as of 9 o'clock this morning, in 2 hours, the park is going to close. Year-round residents, business owners, and visitors are going to have to be out by 1 o'clock this afternoon. Some campers have already left. We're going to hear from a camper and also business owners in Whiteshell Provincial Park coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
So let's remember that the highways actually could get busy with all these people moving. Let's get to traffic. Chloe Friesensen.
We're looking at Donald and Graham, where traffic signals are flashing red in all directions, so treat that as an always stop. Proceed with caution. Let me know as well what you're seeing out there on the highways and here in the city of Winnipeg and elsewhere. 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you, Chloe. In addition, around the fire areas, remember you have closed areas. Around Lac du Bonnet, it's 315 and 313. You have closed highways and sections. So take it easy. You shouldn't be in those areas if you don't need to be any either. It is 10 degrees in Winnipeg. It's partly cloudy. We have air quality statements in effect for most of the Lac du Bonny area and extends across Grahamdale and into the West Interlake, Selkirk, Gimli. Also, rainfall warning up for Melita, Boissevain, Turtle Mountain, Verdun Sur, so that's to the west. And so that rain is going to be heavy at times. It's already started in that region. Winnipeg's daytime high is going to be 24 today, but the winds are going to be gusting. There's a risk of a thunderstorm, and then things will get cooler tonight. Corey Funk's live in Lac du Bonny. He'll be with the Reeve coming up after 7 o'clock. We'll hear about the sorrow and the hope today for better conditions in the wildfires, but of course the loss of 2 people from that community announced yesterday. And the mayor of the city of Winnipeg for our monthly interview, also still ahead on Information Radio.
Today on The Current.
The people that I hear that are having it were never vaccinated, don't know the benefits of being vaccinated.
Measles has been spreading in several provinces to case numbers not seen in years for a disease recently considered eliminated in Canada. We will take you to one of the communities seeing a rise in cases to look at what's led to the outbreak that's coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Canada's condo market is cooling in some of the country's most unaffordable cities. Toronto is reporting the steepest drop in prices and sales, with Vancouver not too far behind. The problem is not enough buyers. Nisha Patel explains.
We haven't seen that much inventory in 20 years.
Toronto real estate agent Sean Miller says new listings are piling up on the condo market. Units that once would have sold in days can now take weeks.
We've got 7 months of inventory, which is insane, and we just don't have the buyers to absorb it.
Experts say it's a buyer's market, but there are few buyers to be found, says Bank of Montreal senior economist Robert Kavchik.
Federal policymakers have put a cap on immigration. Population growth is falling off very quickly. You have a historically high number of purpose-built rental units.
Investors are trying to unload their units, turned off by falling rents and higher borrowing costs. Demand for pre-construction condos has almost entirely disappeared.
We're pretty much at a recession in the condo market.
The downturn is concentrated in the largest cities where condo sales have tumbled. In Toronto, prices have slipped 16% from the market peak in 2022. In Vancouver, they're down 9%. And there's another factor that's chilling the market.
Tariffs. It's a beautiful word, isn't it?
Amid the trade war with the U.S., unemployment in Canada is on the rise, and consumer confidence is shaky. Miller, the real estate agent, says many buyers have put major purchases on hold.
A small interest rate reduction in June could make things improve a little bit for a period of time. But then...
Still, economists forecast that in some markets, condo prices could fall another 10% this year. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Despite the glut of condos, Canada's new housing minister says the solution to the country's real estate crisis is to build more homes, not lower prices. Former Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson says there has been a shortage of affordable homes since the Canadian government stopped building them in the 90s. Rafi Boudjikanian reports.
We need to build a lot more across Canada.
Housing Minister Gregor Robertson fresh into the job with a strong opinion on what should happen.
Delivering that. We need to go down. No, I think that we need to deliver more supply, make sure the market is stable. It's a huge part of our economy. We need to be delivering more affordable housing.
Robertson was the mayor of Vancouver from 2008 to 2018. During that time, data from the Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation shows the average price of single-family and semi-detached homes rose 179% across the Metro Vancouver area. That's already put him in the crosshairs of opposition leader Pierre Poilievre.
Conservatives will continue to push real solutions.
But Robertson is defending his record.
I wasn't getting the help I needed from the federal government when I was mayor, or the provincial government of all stripes.
Robertson will be spearheading a new government agency in charge of building affordable homes, a campaign promise from Prime Minister Mark Carney. Carney has also pledged to remove the GST on the purchase of a home at or under $1 million for first-time buyers. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
The trade war with the U.S. is expected to dominate Ontario's budget. The Ontario provincial government is tabling it today. As Jamie Strachan reports, this is the first one since Premier Doug Ford and his Progressive Conservatives won re-election in February.
Let's not rely on President Trump any longer. Let's start creating.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford says reducing reliance on American trade and becoming more self-reliant will be priorities in today's budget.
In the face of President Trump's tariffs, which are rising the cost of everyday essentials, we need to do even more.
There's been a flurry of pre-budget spending already, billions of dollars to speed up housing growth, retrain workers, and reduce tolls. Also a plan to defer billions in taxes. Ontario Finance Minister Peter Bethenfalsey.
That is what the budget I will be presenting is going to be about. Boosting our economic prosperity, thinking big and bold, and championing nation-building projects.
All of this will come at a cost. Ontario's relatively small $1.5 billion deficit could swell and shelve plans to balance the books by next year, says the province's former chief economist, Brian Lewis.
We are seeing slower economic growth and a potential recession arising from the trade war instigated by the American president, so that's going to affect government revenue projections.
Beyond Trump, Lewis says healthcare is a priority, things like addressing hospital wait times, also much needed money for the province's universities and colleges.
We're going to start to see some real pressures in our provincial post-secondary education sector, and I think that's a problem because that is going to affect our ability to educate and train and attract the best and the brightest.
Another item many will be looking for, more details on a plan to build a tunnel under the 401, Canada's busiest highway. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Turkey for talks with his Russian counterpart, but Vladimir Putin won't be there. He's sent a delegation of lower-level officials to Istanbul instead. It's unclear whether Zelensky will meet with them. He says this is Putin's war and only Putin can end it. As Crystal Gomansing reports, many European leaders agree.
The ball is now clearly in Russia's court.
NATO chief Mark Rutte says there should be no doubt anymore. Ukraine is ready to negotiate, and it is Russia that must take the next step. Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson says Vladimir Putin was the one who initiated direct talks, adding the Russian delegation in Istanbul is ready for serious work.
It's not a serious delegation.
Alex Younger is the former head of the British intelligence agency MI6.
Head of delegation is a former culture minister and amateur historian.
Vladimir Medinsky is a Kremlin aide. He's heading up the Russian delegation. He was involved in talks in 2022, which failed. The two leaders have not met face-to-face in 6 years.
Whatever the process is,
Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State who is in Turkey for a NATO foreign ministers meeting, says there is no military solution to the conflict.
And the sooner an agreement can be reached on ending this war, less people will die.
Ukrainians have endured 3 years of Russian bombardments as Russian forces fight to seize more Ukrainian territory. Neither country releases information on battlefield casualties, but estimates are in the hundreds of thousands. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
Officials in Gaza say multiple Israeli strikes on the southern city of Khan Yunis have killed more than 50 people. Medics care for dozens of wounded people inside a hospital reception area. There are reports of at least 10 separate airstrikes. Among the victims were women, children, and an infant. This is the second consecutive night of heavy bombing in Gaza. Yesterday, attacks on northern and southern Gaza killed at least 70 people, including almost 24 children. Israel says its military is targeting Hamas command centers across the territory. New Zealand's parliament is temporarily suspending 3 Maori MPs. It is believed to be the harshest ever penalty issued to parliamentarians in that country. The trio are being reprimanded for performing the haka in Parliament, the ceremonial dances often seen on sports fields before games in New Zealand. But as Georgie Smythe explains, these MPs used it to protest a government bill.
In New Zealand's parliament, a member of the Te Pari Māori Party begins performing the traditional haka song and dance while tearing up a draft bill that sought to reinterpret New Zealand's founding document, the Treaty of Waitangi. This happened in November, but a 21 and 7-day ban for the 3 participants has just been handed down. Judith Collins, the head of the committee that recommended the punishment, says the decisions were not made lightly.
We've never seen action like this in Parliament.
It's a stricter ruling than I think a lot of people expected outside of the party.
Fox Meyer is a political reporter with the media organisation Newsroom in Wellington. He says the suspensions are the longest in parliamentary history.
It was the setting itself that was what the Privileges Committee saw as the problem. It was the advancing across the floor of the House, the pointing and gesturing at another party in the middle of a debate.
The bill the group was protesting, which sought to change the rights of Māori and non-Māori in the country, was eventually defeated, but not before sparking massive protests across New Zealand. The decision of whether to carry out the temporary suspension of the Māori Party members will be voted on next week. And like the defeated bill, the fallout from this debate around Indigenous issues might last longer than any suspensions. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us on Information Radio. You're with CBC. We're live in downtown Winnipeg, but we are also live this morning in Lac du Bonnet at the heart of one of the wildfires. Corey Funk is live at Drifters. He is in the town of Lac du Bonnet. The RM, of course, is very much still facing a dangerous wildfire this morning. Yesterday, 2 Manitobans lost their lives in that fire. Corey has the Reeve live this half hour. He's also going to talk to one of the evacuees from that area. So stay tuned. We'll go to him in Lac du Bonnet momentarily. We'll get the latest on what is happening in this province overall with all of the fires. 24 active fires, parks that are going to be closing, and some of the fires too big, like Nopaming, to even send help and firefighters into the area. It's too dangerous. Heather Wells will walk us through the very latest. In addition, we have the Winnipeg City Mayor, Scott Gillingham, who's going to be here for a monthly interview this hour. You can stay tuned for that. Seems like it was a long time ago, but remember the fire in Transcona on Gun Road. So we're going to be asking the mayor more about that and about safety moving forward. Some concerns have been raised. Right now, let's go to Heather for those headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, right now, 24 active wildfires are burning in the province. Officials say 6 are requiring the most attention. And that fire at Nopaming, as you mentioned, is more than 100,000 hectares in size. As of 9 o'clock this morning, one of the biggest provincial parks in this province is going to close. It is among 5 provincial parks that are shutting down. That is the White Shell. So as of 9, it closes. Year-round residents, business owners, and visitors are going to have to be out by 1 o'clock this afternoon. Now, rural Conservative MLAs say a disconnect with emergency 911 services makes people more vulnerable to wildfires. We're going to hear about that as well in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
It is 7:12 now. I also want to invite you, if you have something to share this morning, if you have a need, you need help, or if you have a story that you would like to share publicly, or maybe if you just want to share a thank you, wherever you are in the province dealing with wildfires, you can reach out to us at CBC. We've been using our traffic line as a live line during the morning show, so you can reach Chloe at 788-3093. You can also post on my Facebook page. It's Marcy Marcusa, and it acts as a show page when we're on air. Well, speaking of Chloe, she's here to run down our weather and traffic. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to start with the air quality warning that is in place for much of Manitoba, of course, due to wildfires. We have some areas added to this air quality warning. That is the RM of Grahamdale, Jackhead Reservation, RM of West Interlake, Barons River, Waterhen Meadow, Portage, and that is added to much of southern Manitoba, City of Winnipeg, Steinbach, Portage, Morden, for example, and then, of course, Nopaming Provincial Park, RM of Alexander, and the White Shell. Also, a rainfall warning in the West, sorry, correcting myself there, in the west. We do want rain in the east, however. In Melita, Boissevain, Turtle Mountain, you are looking at a rainfall warning. You could see up to 50 to 70 millimeters of rain by Friday afternoon. That's going to continue today with showers and thunderstorms and some steady rain with thunder into Friday afternoon. Some local temperatures right now in Winnipeg, 10 degrees, partly cloudy. Looking at mainly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers here in Winnipeg this morning. Showers beginning at noon with a risk of a thunderstorm, a high of 24. Tomorrow, rain could amount to 5 to 10 millimeters in Winnipeg. Brandon, 7 degrees in Brandon right now with rain shower. And the risk of a thunderstorm could amount to 5 to 10 millimeters today with some gusty winds northeast 30 to 50. In Dauphin, it's 6 degrees with some light rain. Could amount to 5 to 10 millimeters with local smoke in Dauphin. Gimli, 9 degrees in Gimli. An air quality warning, of course, in effect. Today, looking at mainly cloudy skies with a 60% chance of showers and that risk of a thunderstorm. It's 1 degree in Thompson with partly cloudy skies. We will see rain ending overnight. Churchill, -3 degrees. And of course, in the Whiteshell, Lactobani area, mix of sun and cloud today. 30% chance of showers this morning with a 60% chance of showers this afternoon with the risk of a thunderstorm.
Anything to say about the morning commute?
Just that the lights are still in a red flash at Donald and Graham, so treat that as a 4-way stop. Of course, if you see anything else, 204-788-3093.
Well, Whiteshell Provincial Park, Nopaming, Lactobani, Piney near Leebow, Ground Beach. These are all areas that normally on this day, mid-May, heading into the long weekend, we'd be talking about go, visit, enjoy, beautiful Manitoba. But right now, the message is if you do not need to be in these areas, stay away. And that is because of the wildfires that are burning, as Heather mentioned. One of them, the one in the arm of Lactobani, is at last check was 4,000 hectares. A lot of people, people have been evacuated, but a lot of people of those evacuees are in the town of Lactobani. Corey Funk is in Lactobani this morning. He's at Drifters at the intersection of Highway 11 and 313, and he's going to be talking to an evacuee, but I believe first he is sitting down, he's also at the table, take your pick, Corey. You have an evacuee there, and you also have the Reeves.
Yeah, so just to my left here, I've got Shirley Oliver, who's an evacuee. Also to my right, I've got the Reeve of the RM of Lactobani, Lauren Schinkel. But I just want to start with you, Shirley. So you're actually staying here at Drifters and you live in Pinawa Bay, which is actually right in between two fires. So just tell me a little bit about what that was like for you to have to evacuate.
Well, it was horrible. Whenever you're told to get out right away, and so you walk out with what's on your back and your medication, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. So right now, actually, I understand the clothes you're wearing is the clothes you pretty much been wearing for 2 days because you have nothing else.
No, nothing.
Have so Pinawa Bay, you're right, you're kind of south of the Nopaming fire, you're east of the Wendigo Beach fire. How concerned are you about your property? I mean, what have you heard?
Oh, we haven't heard that much. Just that the smoke is thick there, but really haven't heard too much.
Have you?
I tried to get in yesterday. I drove out there, but they wouldn't let me past. Just to grab some clothes, wouldn't let me pass. So.
Yeah. You've lived there for 20 years in Pinawa Bay. Have you ever had to worry like this? Have you ever had to evacuate anything like that before?
Never. Thank God. No.
Okay.
It's not a nice thing to have to get out of your home like that.
And what's it been like for you to be here at Drifters in the community, at least? I understand you're actually a regular customer when you're not actually living here.
Well, I don't know if I have a room for tonight again because the place is full.
Right.
So
I imagine there's other fellow evacuees here, I'm guessing, hey?
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of workers here that stay here. And they all took off and said that they would go back to Winnipeg or wherever to let their rooms be free, for people like me. So that freed it up yesterday. That's why I was able to get in yesterday. But I don't know about tonight.
What are you going to do if you don't have anywhere to go?
I'm going to stay with you.
I think we have a spare bed in the basement somewhere.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you very much, Shirley. I really hope the best for you. I'm going to turn now to the Reeve of the RM of Lactobani. This is Lauren Schenkel here, and he might have some answers for you here, Shirley, in terms of how things are looking. What's the latest on the fire?
Well, I was just up in that area where the fire started, and I actually spoke with the security, the RCMP officers, both at Wendigo and for PR 433. Certainly thank them for their service, over the last few days. In that area, that's where the fire originated, and at the end, I saw a couple of hot spots there as well. I was advised by the officers who spent the night there that they could still see embers glowing in that area. So you know what? It's a fluid situation still. We're hoping that there's going to be more rain. We did have a little bit last night, but certainly a sprinkle is not enough. We're hoping that there's going to be some movement today in some of the evacuation orders. But, with if the wind stays down, we're in good fortune. But again, I just want to thank all the people on the front lines there. Our firefighters, our volunteers, Manitoba Wildfire Services that have been remarkable. They made the difference in this terrible situation. And without them, we will lost a lot more properties. I can't really thank them enough on behalf of our residents here. So, we're hoping again that there's going to be some modifications today in the evacuation orders. I haven't spoken with emergency measures yet this morning, but I think there'll be some movement today. So hopefully we'll be able to lift some of those orders as it moves. I just want to say too, yesterday, was a better day than Monday. Monday was horrendous. But the importance of staying out of that area until we can make it safe. I know hydro's been turned on parts of Wendigo. I know that, Granite Hills area has had their power restored as well. And thanks to the efforts of hydro and the isolating. But yesterday we had a situation with these drones, and it actually impeded our efforts because the water bombers are down. And I understand everybody's curiosity when, what's my property look like? And when I can get a drone and do that. Please don't do that, because it sets everybody back, and there's thousands of people out of their residence. You know what? We've got to think about safety. Just stay out of the area as soon as we can modify these things. You know what? We want to get people back into their homes as well. And, you're a fine example of that. So it's, let's all cooperate and show some patience and thank all of our first responders who have put their lives on the line for us.
And so you're saying you're hoping for some movement on evacuations. Hopefully, maybe you can send people back home. Obviously, not still some more information before that. But how many people have been evacuated? Now, I know as of yesterday, it was 800 to 1,000. Do you have any more updated numbers on how many people have evacuated?
The numbers have stayed the same. We've issued 8 different modifications of the evacuation orders in that area today. And I know we evacuated the Urban Road, Pinawa, Lee River Channel area. And the fire did jump Old Point Road, but it stayed north of Provincial Road 313. And, today driving in that area, and I just needed to have a look for myself. I was there when the fire actually started in that area, and there's still hot spots. We have 2 machines working in that area from local contractors. Thank you for that. And they're trying to get controls and put some fire lines in there. And the efforts are going to continue today, but hopefully we'll get word from Manitoba Wildfire Services. Again, they've been remarkable through our chain of command of the emergency measures and be able to lift something. I did speak to our staff late last night and early this morning. We've got some things that we need to do on our council side, the resolutions and so those things. So hopefully we'll bring some good news to the neighbors and the people that are evacuated.
I was chatting with a couple of firefighters, and they said they saw a lot of property loss in there. I know there's also loss of life. I know we talked about that a little bit, but what did you see when you were in there in terms of property loss?
I haven't been right up into the Grosdon Point area, but I saw some videos that some of our members, Public Works, has been in there, and the hydro employees, and frankly, it's devastating. It's heart-wrenching. It's, we lost 28 dwellings in that area. And then it goes without saying the loss of life in that area. It just, you can't really describe it in words. Our hearts and our prayers go out to the family loved ones that are by this. I just want them to know that, we're all suffering with them. At the end of the day, We are one big family here, and the resiliency of our community and how we pull together on this is remarkable. And if they need any assistance at all, just please reach out to us, the family members that have been impacted by this. And they're in our thoughts and prayers.
I mean, one thing, you're hearing stories of people stepping up. People here, drifters, just a lot of meals for firefighters, evacuees, things like that. What have you noticed about how the community's been stepping up for each other during this time?
Well, when this started, obviously, it's overwhelming. We had businesses, as an example, the co-op store here. He gave me a call, and we pulled up there, and we filled my truck box up with water. And I said, just keep track. He said, don't worry about it. We had restaurants like here, drifters, step up. Everybody in the community has pulled together. The grocery stores, it's been remarkable. And volunteers that have stepped into the right here. I know that at the community center the other night, they were cooking until the wee hours to provide meals for the people that have been placed. And I've talked to the mayor in the town, and I've been reached out by so many people here. All of our regional mayors and reeves have contacted me, and yesterday I received a call from the premier. The day before I received, during the height of all of this turmoil, I received a call from Minister Simard, municipal relations, offering whatever you need, Lauren. And that's how it's been. Yesterday I talked to the deputy, of the emergency measures at the RCMP, and whatever we need is going to be there. I was asked that question, well, what do you expect from the government? They've gone above and beyond in the fire services itself. The remarkable people in those water bombers, 4 water bombers and a helicopter were out there. And without them, we could potentially not be sitting here. So they're the true unsung heroes, the people on the front lines, all our fire department personnel, all of the RCMP officers, they're still in there. I asked the officers on Wendigo, I said, are your members there? And I know they had their forensic team in there. So it's an ongoing investigation. And I just can't thank the people enough that have stepped up here.
And last thing before I go here, when can people expect an update, and where should they go for that kind of information today?
Well, we've been pushing information out through the emergency measures website, our website at the RM of Lac du Bonnet. As soon as we hear anything, certainly, that process is from Manitoba Wildfire Services. If they tell us the front lines, when the fire's out sufficiently enough, even in Granite Hills, and that we can release that area of Urban Road and Wendigo, or Urban Road and Pinawa Channel, we'll get that out as soon as we can. But there is a process we have to follow.
Okay.
And it's all about the safety of our residents at the end of the day.
Lauren Schenkel, Reeve Lauren Schenkel, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Back to you, Marcy.
Thank you.
All right. Corey, out talking to an evacuee. Shirley says she's not sure where she's going to spend the night tonight. She's at Drifters. That's where Corey is. That's in Lac du Bonnet at the intersection of Highway 11 and 313, restaurant and hotel there. And Reeve Lauren Schenkel giving us some additional information about these wildfires and talking about the loss of 28 structures. He's confirming this morning in one of the areas where firefighters will continue to be today. Also reminding people, drones in the area, very dangerous. He appreciates you might want to look at your property. We still don't have information about who lost their lives in the fire. That is private at this point. And of course, as Reeve Schenkel from Lac du Bonnet speaking there, people's thoughts are very much with everyone affected by this. So updates through the morning. It is 7:27. It is 10 degrees here in Winnipeg. It's mainly cloudy. Winds are northeast at 30. And let's switch gears because we have a big hockey game tonight. Scott Reguera is here to talk about morning sports. Hello to you.
Hey, Marcy.
So the Jets are in this must-win territory tonight. Some people are saying they're so nervous they can't watch.
Yeah, and for the second time this postseason, right? The situations are a little bit different. Last round against St. Louis, the Jets did not face elimination until Game 7. This time they're down 3-1 to Dallas and need to not only win tonight, but go on a winning streak if they're going to keep their season alive. Head coach Scott Arniel was giving the usual cliches of not focusing on that, but taking one game at a time. He did say, though, that the team is drawing on that experience from avoiding elimination against the Blues.
Those are all learning curves for us. We talked after Game 1 in the St. Louis series about the nerves for some guys that had never been through the whiteout and how we got better as that series went on and then had to learn another lesson in that Game 7 and come out on the right end of it. No different now. That's all part of this time of year. There's some guys that have never done it before. There's some guys that haven't done it since 2018. Now we have to step up and be at our best and learn from the lessons that we've had just recently.
So what does history say about a 3-1 series deficit? 32 times in NHL history, teams have come back. Most recently, the Florida Panthers in 2023. So good luck to the Jets tonight. Puck drop is 8:30. And speaking of those Panthers, they absolutely thumped Toronto. We're leaving the Leafs on the brink of elimination. The good news is Edmonton won in overtime last night and have made their way through to the Western Final, where the Jets would love to meet them. They eliminated Vegas last night.
Let's talk golf. The PGA Championship starts today, right?
It does. The second major getting underway in North Carolina. And let's hope, Marcy, it brings us as much joy as the first major did. Rory McIlroy, after more than a decade of trying, finally claiming that Masters. It finished off the career slam for the Northern Irishman and very much shapes his view going into today's competition at Quail Hollow.
I think everyone saw how hard having a North Star is and being able to get over the line. Look, I've done everything I've wanted to do in the game. I dreamed as a child of becoming the best player in the world and winning all the majors. I've done that. Everything beyond this, for however long I decide to play the game, is a bonus.
Yeah, McIlroy not the only intriguing storyline, Marcy. There is a quintet of Canadians involved, led by Corey Connors. And after finishing 8th at the Masters himself, his North Star is to win a first ever major. And he started pursuit of it about 12 minutes ago. He teed off.
Thanks very much, Scott. I know it's an abbreviated version of sports due to the wildfires, but we appreciate having you on with us.
Understandable, and hopefully a little levity on a day like today.
Yeah, right. All right, thank you. That is Scott Reguer live with us. He is each and every morning with sports on CBC. You're with Information Radio, your morning show in Winnipeg, covering Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. By the way, Corey Funk's in Lac du Bonnet. You can see him on YouTube if you're watching our show there. You're going to be seeing all the interviews he's bringing. This half hour on the show, we have our regular monthly interview with the mayor of the city of Winnipeg. We will talk fires, downtown safety, and whether or not we're going to meet the July 1st deadline for opening Portage and Main. Right now, though, your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is 10 degrees. Smoky and wet in Winnipeg today. Showers expected around noon with a risk of a thunderstorm and widespread smoke. It'll be windy as well. Today's high is 24. A community is grieving this morning after 2 people died when they became trapped by wildfire. The bodies of a man and woman were recovered by police near Lac du Bonnet. RCMP say they got a report Tuesday 2 people were trapped, but extreme conditions kept officers from reaching them until yesterday. Lauren Schinkel, the reeve for the RM of Lac du Bonnet, says it was too early to speak about the 2 people's identities or the specifics of how they died.
There are rumors out there, but they're just that, and we have to respect the investigation that the RCMP are doing. But certainly our thoughts and prayers are with the loved ones and the people that are going to be impacted within the community by this horrible event.
So far, about 1,000 people have been forced out by wildfires throughout eastern Manitoba, spurred, of course, by those hot, windy conditions. 24 active wildfires are burning. Officials say 6 need the most attention. One fire at Nopaming Provincial Park is more than 100,000 hectares. We are going to hear from the Premier at 9 o'clock this morning. Wab Kinew is scheduled to speak about the wildfire situation. One of Manitoba's largest and most popular parks is closing its gates because of the wildfire. No one is going to be allowed to enter Whiteshell Provincial Park starting at 9 o'clock this morning, and everyone already in the park has to be out by 1 this afternoon. Sean Harbottle owns Crescent Beach Cottages at West Hawk Lake. He calls the government's decision a knee-jerk reaction.
I'm mad at them. It's ridiculous, to say every business has to be out. We're a long ways away from the fires. There's quite easy. You can see where the fires are. You can get out there, unless they're going to close all the Trans-Canada Highway all the way to Winnipeg. I see no sense in closing this area.
Harbottle has been running the resort for more than 30 years, and his family has been living in that area for almost 7. In all that time, he says he's never heard of the entire Whiteshell ever being shut down. Now, some campers have already left Whiteshell Provincial Park. Janelle Banman and her husband packed up their trailer yesterday and headed home, cutting their annual trip short.
We just don't want to get trapped or have anybody get injured. I have 2 dogs and I have my husband, so yeah, it's more important to save ourselves than stay.
The province says the park will remain closed until extreme conditions improve. Anyone with reservations during that time, including this Victoria Day long weekend, will be contacted by the park's reservation service. Now, a woman who had to get out of her family cottage in Ingolf, Ontario, says she understands the draw of the cottage on May long weekend, but she says people need to heed the warnings and stay away. Marilyn Brick is now safe at home in Seven Sisters Falls, not far from the Lac du Bonnet fire, and she has a go bag packed and ready just in case. Brick says it's a shame so many provincial parks are closed, but it's necessary.
Again, I know it's the long weekend. I know everybody loves the long weekend and they love cottage country. You can't come out to cottage country right now. I'm sorry for people that they're going to lose this weekend. The RCMP are stopping people from entering cottage country, and that people need to be aware of that.
Brick says so far her cottage near Ingolf is still standing, but she worries others will not be so lucky. Rural Conservative MLAs say a disconnect with the emergency 911 service makes people more vulnerable to wildfires. Conrad North lives near Zoda in southeast Manitoba. His neighbor's garage was destroyed by a wildfire this week. North says another neighbor tried to call 911 to get help.
Didn't get through and put on hold, so it wasn't until the neighbor had reached out to the fire chief on a personal cell phone that they were able to dispatch the local fire department to that scene.
North says fortunately crews got there in time to save the neighbor's house. He says it is concerning, though, 911 isn't reliable in rural areas. The Tories believe it's a problem with a service provider. They say the infrastructure minister is responsible for the Emergency 911 Public Safety Answering Point Act and should be looking into the matter. A farmer in the McGregor area has to wait at least 5 months for his stolen truck to get back on the road. The truck was recovered with a broken tailgate and back window, along with a crushed radiator. Clint Sigurdsson says he called many shops looking for someone to repair his truck.
I phoned everybody from Winnipeg to Virden, Manitoba, and they all gave me the same story, that they don't do theft claims.
Eventually, Sigurdsson found a shop willing to do the repairs in Winkler. Winnipeg mechanic Johnny Vernos tells CBC shops often turn down stolen vehicle repairs because they take time and they aren't a moneymaker. MPI says it wants to help speed things up. It is considering allowing temporary repairs to get vehicles back on the road until full repairs can be done. You can find more news updated throughout the day and the latest on the wildfire situation at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
I just want to impart something here because a listener was reminding me of some of the things that we know to be true, which is when you hear the Reeve of the Arm of Lac du Bonnet before the news talking about, be careful about the area in terms of bringing drones in and not interfering with the wildfire fighting. When they come in to do the dumps of the water, right, the water bombers, first there's a spotter plane that goes through and it's looking to see if the area is clear. It has to be clear. They can't dump all that water if it's not clear. So you don't want to be in the area for your own safety for lots of reasons, but also it hampers all the efforts that are happening from above. And then, of course, drones in the sky, as you can imagine, very much problematic as well for those who are doing this work. What we need, though, is Mother Nature to cooperate with some rain. And as we've been sharing this morning, unfortunately, it looks like it's the wrong part of the province, Chloe.
Yeah, we have a rainfall warning in, where's my paper here? In the areas of
Brandon,
Turtle Mountain. There we go. Melita, I got it. Melita, Boissevain, Turtle Mountain Provincial Park, Virden, and Surrey. So rain at times is expected, heavy rain, 50 to 70 millimeters of rain expected by Friday afternoon. And that's going to roll into tomorrow as well. We do have a chance of rain in the Whiteshell Lac du Bonnet area. So today in that area, looking at a mix of sun and cloud, a 30% chance of showers early this morning, 60% chance of showers this afternoon. So hopefully we see that rain. Quickly here with some current conditions, Winnipeg in right now it's 10 degrees, partly cloudy, looking at a high of 24. In Brandon, 7 degrees with some rain showers, as I mentioned. Where's my high? Sorry, figuring things out. That rain, I should mention, could mount
High 15 for
High 15, thank you. Dauphin, 6 degrees, light rain, a high of 8. Gimli, 9 degrees in Gimli, a high of 19. In Thompson, it's 1 degree, partly cloudy skies, a high of 6. Churchill, a high of +2. It is currently -3. On the commute, not much going on. If you do see something, 204-788-3093.
All right. Thank you, Chloe. It is 22 minutes to 8 o'clock. And next on the show, we're switching gears here and looking at Winnipeg's downtown. And that is because if you were with us yesterday, you heard one of the reports out of the first quarter for the downtown. Businesses and residents are hoping the province continues to support a lot of the things that are growing and doing well downtown, but also specifically there's some challenges with downtown safety. So they're looking to the province to continue supporting the Safety Action Plan. Last year, the Manitoba government provided nearly $1.5 million to help fund more patrols for the Downtown Community Safety Partnership. Kate Fensky, CEO of the Downtown Winnipeg Biz, says, as I mentioned, she hopes to see that back for another year.
What we're hearing is safety is still a concern, obviously citywide. We know with the new police chief, there's a focus there. The mayor has announced a Winnipeg Safe initiative. The province has a safety strategy. But we've got some real concerns, and so we're really hoping that the province and city can come together and join the Downtown Biz again to do another round of the Downtown Summer Safety Action Program this summer.
So the Downtown Community Safety Partnership was one of the groups that received support. Did they see benefits? Greg Burnett's here to talk about that before we turn our attention actually to the mayor who's listening in. Greg is the executive director of the Downtown Community Safety Partnership. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what were some of the key numbers or stats you saw with this extra support over the last year, Greg?
Well, really what we saw was a real building of relationships with our community folks out in the street, and that includes people living, working, and enjoying the downtown. And when we talk about our partners, the city, fire, paramedic, police, all working together on this, we did see an alleviation of the demands and strains on emergency services because we're out there in the community and really trying to deal with things before they become problems or crisis. And that's always a benefit when you're proactive. And that allowed us to work with a lot of people to do that.
So if $1.5 million was the level it was funded at before, obviously you hope that would continue. But what is lost if it doesn't? Like, help us understand, is how many people you don't have or what things you can't get to if that funding doesn't come through?
Well, really it comes down to presence, eyes and ears when we talk about things like public community safety and having people on the street, again, watching and seeing and reporting what's going on, and also helping people who are most in need, right, and helping everybody. With last year, we had a great relation with Kevin Walker and Bear Clan. We're working with Mitch and OPK, Mitch Bourbonniere, with OPK, and a young gentleman, Joshua Nepanak, and his group, Ouija Shin, and again, working with those kind of community groups at grassroots, grass level. We kind of lose that ability to do all that, though we are going to keep trying.
What else were you able to accomplish with that action plan in place last year that you'd like to highlight where you saw improvements downtown?
Well, again, I like to think the perception of safety when people see our folks, those welcome, friendly faces in the bright green. Again, people feel a little bit better. And then, of course, when we work with police and, again, our other partners, that just more presence, more people downtown means more safety and a better level of safety. So, and again, the numbers, I think there's a 12 to 14% reduction in calls to 911 and, again, emergency services. So you have those kind of hard stats. But, again, it's that relationship building with people and community downtown that is a big piece of this as well.
If they're going to give you more, I'm going to think positive here. So if the province is going to come through with more than $1.5 million, where would you put the money? Where you still see gaps and improvements that you could make in safety?
Well, in our area, and what we're working with is the community groups who are out there. I mean, there's so many people, and you know this as well when you talk with, Mitch Bourbonniere, Joshua Nepanak, the Bear Clan, who are out there, and a lot of that is volunteer work, people, dedicating their time to, again, increase community safety. And so we're able to, employ them, bring them on board, and again, use those skills and those amazing community connections in the downtown area, again, to build a really good safety network.
Anything to add, Greg, that I haven't asked out of the reporter about safety downtown that you think is important to highlight this morning?
I just, again, I'm optimistic. When we talk about this, you mentioned the new chief, the fire chief, the mayor, the province, who work with justice all the time, families. I really sense there's a collaboration going on. And that's what's really needed when we talk about improving safety. And if you don't mind, before I said just a shout out to all the firefighters. My heart goes out to all the folks involved in the wildfires and what's going on, and I'll keep praying and keep my fingers crossed for rain and helping out there.
Yeah, I don't mind at all. I think all of our minds are with people. Quite sobering yesterday as we watched the fires grow in so many places, and then those images and video of the black plumes, and then learning loss of life was just another level for us in Manitoba, right?
It really is, and we wish them all the best.
I don't know about you, too. We're so used to dealing with floods. Obviously, we deal with many, many wildfires as well. But I saw a lot of people posting that it felt like we were in BC or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a sad state of the times, and again, I wish everybody the best. And when we talk safety, dealing with those things, I can't imagine. So, all the best to them. All
right, Greg. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. That's Greg Burnett, the Executive Director of the Downtown Community Safety Partnership, on live on CBC on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. It is 7:44 a.m. I apologize if you're watching on YouTube. I was just asking Abby something, and we do sign language. Sometimes we have our own version of that. And next on the program, we have Mayor Scott Gillingham, who's actually been sitting in. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Let's start with downtown safety, because that's obviously the conversation. You were listening to Greg Burnett. He was ending talking about collaboration. How real is that, and how important is that to collaborate?
Well, it's critical, and I want to give kudos to Greg Burnett. Greg and his team at DCSP are doing just an outstanding job in our downtown. But Greg is one of the leaders who is a bright spot in our city because he is all about collaboration. And you heard him a couple of times list all the different organizations that DCSP is collaborating with, from police to Bear Clan to Biz Patrols to OPK. And that coordination is critical because we've got a lot of agencies in the downtown that are working to provide safety and also to get help to people who need the help in the downtown. And they're coordinating now. That's why one of the reasons why I called for we're establishing the Safe Winnipeg initiative. You heard Kate Fensky talk about that, and DCSP and the police service are at the heart of that to provide a blanket of safety in the downtown.
Can the city provide any more funding to those critical agencies? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I've been in discussion with my office has been in discussion with. I just spoke to Kate Fensky yesterday. I spoke to Greg actually earlier in the week. My office will be providing funding this summer towards that initiative that Kate Fensky's talking about to provide more safety in the downtown. We're in dialogue with the province of Manitoba as well to really reestablish or continue that partnership of funding. So I don't know what the province is. Yeah, I don't know what the province is going to do, but we had a good discussion with them yesterday.
You asking for them to up the limit, or are you asking for the 1.5 mil to be restored?
I don't know that we've asked for any specific number, but just I know there's good conversation between Kate Fensky, my office, and the province of Manitoba as well. But there has been some positive results, Marcy, over the last couple of years. The police report on crime stats came out last week that showed over the last 2 years, crime in the downtown has been dropping. And that's good. The number of visits to the downtown, according to the Biz report, is increasing. Mm-hmm. The foot traffic is increasing. So things are headed in the right direction when it comes to safety in our downtown and investment in our downtown. But we just need to continue on this path.
Before we leave the downtown subject here, I do want to play another clip from Kate for you, actually, from the Downtown Winnipeg Biz, because she was, pardon me, it's the same clip that we just played and you were listening in, so we're going to move on. I misunderstood that. I thought we had something about vacancies. Let me ask you about vacancies, though, as well, because you talked about people moving more foot traffic, but there are also still vacancies, but there's still new businesses that have opened up. I think 6 of them were listed, a different number of businesses. More offices are being rented by tenants, but there are still challenges with that. What would you like to say to business owners or entrepreneurs that might be thinking about downtown, but maybe have shied away from it, being worried about doing business there?
Well, I think, the discussion about safety is key. A safe community creates the environment for investment. Because I want the downtown to be the kind of place where if you're a family that lives in the suburbs, you'll have full confidence that your son or daughter can work a closing shift at a downtown restaurant. And that's not the case yet. So for every family. So we've got to get to that place, Marcy, where businesses feel that they want to make the investment in the downtown. But I do want to commend the significant investment that is happening. The Manitoba Métis Federation, True North. There are many companies that are and businesses that are investing in the downtown, either creating more business, more retail space, or more residential development as well. So things are moving in the right direction. We've got a ways to go, but things are moving in a positive direction.
It's 12 minutes to 8 o'clock. Mayor Scott Gillingham on with us live on CBC for our monthly interview. Let's turn our attention to fires and actually want us to start inside Winnipeg. While we're watching the wildfires all over the province burn, it seems like some time ago, but it wasn't, where we had that fire on Gun Road. And on Monday, there were several grass fires in Winnipeg. So some in Transcona, that's the Gun Road one, McPhillips area. What do we understand this morning about the cause of the fires within the city?
I don't know that we have a definitive cause at this point. Some of them were in proximity to rail lines, so I know that our fire department was speaking with the rail companies as well. And so, the conditions, this goes without saying, CBC has been telling residents this, and residents see this. The conditions are just so dry. There are fire bans in place within the city of Winnipeg. I'm, pleading with every Winnipegger to adhere to and respect those fire bans, so that that we understand the conditions are such that one spark, one cigarette thrown out a window could cause a massive problem. So we really need to do all we can to, as residents, to make sure that we're keeping the city safe and respecting the fire bans. And I just want to echo, if I can, what Greg Burnett said. Our thoughts as the people of Winnipeg go out to the people in the Lac du Bonnet area and the Whiteshell area at this time. And we're grateful for the firefighters and all the hard work they're doing, and everyone supporting them as well.
You mentioned you're in conversation with the rail companies. Just for people to catch up here, we did have Transcona City Councillor, as I alluded to, Russ Wyatt, on the program Tuesday. He had concerns about sparks from train wheels starting fires. Previously we have seen this. When you say you've spoken to them, are you expecting you'll get an answer back to whether or not that was involved in what happened at Gun Road?
Yeah, those are conversations that our fire department has had with the rail company. So I don't know, the outcome of those conversations, but we do know that in these conditions, with everything being so dry, yes, sparks from trains can cause fires. So can things, as I said, like a cigarette flicked out the window. So we just all have to be very careful and do what we can to prevent fires.
When do you think we might know the outcome of those conversations?
I don't have a timeline on any of that.
Okay. Yeah. How worried should people be about it? I mean, I got a question actually written in from Mary Bevan about this morning. She said she has family and friends impacted by fires in the Whiteshells in the rural area, but she says she's thinking about vacant buildings. She drives by, she writes on her way to work in Winnipeg that are fire hazards. She wonders if we should resolve them or move them before they cause issues. She writes specifically, with the recent fire near Transcona, she's nervous. So how do you speak to that? People that are worried about vacant buildings, dry conditions, and problem areas in the city.
We have too many vacant buildings in the city of Winnipeg right now. Excuse me. And we have a team that's working to address that, reduce the number of vacant buildings for several reasons, including the fact that sometimes they attract arsonists, and they become sites for fires, which puts more pressure on our fire department and, threatens neighboring properties as well. So we are working actively to address that, to reduce the number of vacant and derelict buildings. And, I hope to, frankly, Marcy, have more on that and an announcement in the coming weeks related to some of the work we're doing.
Councillor Wyatt just did express one more thing I want to ask you about. He had concern about some of the businesses along there, so specifically auto wreckers. He felt that their yards were too packed with cars. He said he was there in February and looking, and he said that when he was there, he couldn't imagine getting through the area. He was trying to get some of the people to, move some of those cars, as he put it, and such. So he was worried, fire crews could have trouble reaching, areas, to get in to fight the fires. Is the city planning to look into, or are you already looking and talking to some of those businesses about that, so there's a clear path to the areas that might be threatened by fires?
Well, all businesses do have fire safety standards that they have to comply with, and city bylaws that they have to comply with as well. Our fire department does investigations. They do kind of site visits from time to time, informing, educating business owners. And so, I've spoken to our fire department before, not specific to Transcona properties, but just, if our fire team is out and inspecting sites, and if they see something that is non-compliant, they'll tell the business owner, you've got to bring this in compliance. You've got to fix what the problem is. You've got to clean up your site, whatever the case may be, to comply with bylaws and fire safety codes.
What if they don't? Do they face fines?
Yes.
And will
they
you
would
be?
face fines.
Are you concerned about this specific area? Is that an area that are?
Yeah, I don't know, if there's anything specific to what the councillor said. I don't know, how valid what he said was. But again, our fire department does do kind of regular inspections, and they'll walk around. Probably not walk around. They'll go through community and visit sites and visit properties and businesses and make sure that they're in compliance with all the fire regulations.
Just last, do we need to change anything in terms of from the city level about to make reduce the threats from things like grass and wildfires like this? As you well know, people are thinking maybe about the big fire in St. Boniface, and at that time we were doing stories about the rail lines over the forks, and as we've said, just a spark or a change, lots of oil and industrial materials moving through the city. What areas do you think we could strengthen to keep people safer?
Well, I think that it goes back to what we just spoke about. If every business and property owner does their part to make sure that their property is in compliance with fire regulations and fire codes, that would help, because it reduces, perhaps the spread of fire or the start of fire. There are moments, though, with the way things are in our climate right now, where things are just so tinder dry, we have to all be extra cautious and really be careful to do our part to make sure that we're not doing anything inadvertently that would cause a fire, because on a dry, windy day, as we see, the fire spreads quickly.
A couple other things quickly to go through, speaking of which. So Portage and Main, people are looking for that to be finished and opened. July 1st deadline, is that looking like that is still going to hold?
It is looking like it's going to hold. Our transit system switches over to a new transit network on June the 29th. The Portage and Main construction is on time right now. And we're very confident that we will open it to pedestrian traffic before that time. We don't have a date, but we believe we're right on time.
And just something sobering before we do talk about the Jets for a moment, because you're in New Jersey, people might be wondering if I'm going to ask. But we haven't spoken since the loss of Jason Schreier, which was a shock. Obviously, councillors coming together to grieve. The Elmwood East Kildonan, a longtime city councillor, dying suddenly last month. We did talk to a community group, though. They're hoping to see Councillor Schreier memorialized somehow in the community. There's a corner in Elmwood they say might be meaningful to rename for him. And what are some of the things the city might be looking at to remember Councillor Schreier?
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, it is absolutely a shock. We continue to grieve Councillor Schreier's death and loss. He and I got elected at the same time to council in 2014, and so I've worked with him ever since. We are talking about different ways that we can honor Jason Schreier and his contribution to the city of Winnipeg and his commitment to the people of his community. And so we haven't determined yet ultimately, what we'll do, but certainly there's discussions about finding ways to honor him. And, I'll take the opportunity once again to express my deepest condolences to his family, his sons, his wife, his parents on his death.
And I know there's a memorial planned for actually late June. I think it's June 20th. And then finally, let's talk about the Jets. We're going to have a lot of people downtown tonight, a lot of hopeful people. I don't even know what to ask you about this. I don't even know if I can watch the game. I'm so nervous. Words of encouragement maybe from the mayor of the city of Winnipeg?
Well, our team has done really well at home. We've won all our playoff games at home. We're at home. Our team will be, buoyed by the whiteout and all the fans, whether they're watching downtown in the arena or at home, not just in Winnipeg, but across the province. And so, our team has to win this game. I'm confident that they're up to the task.
All right. Good vibes. Good vibes. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
That is the mayor of the city of Winnipeg, Scott Gillingham, live with us on CBC as he is every month for our interview. It is 3 minutes to 8 o'clock now. Let's return to our news center. Heather Wells has been following what's happening all over Manitoba with the fires. She has the latest.
Well, the community is struggling to come to terms with the deaths of two people who died after being trapped by wildfire. The bodies of a man and woman were recovered by police near Lac du Bonny. RCMP say they got a report Tuesday. Two people were trapped, but extreme conditions kept officers from reaching them until yesterday. The Reeve for the arm of Lac du Bonny, meanwhile, says it's been a devastating week, the loss of life, as we just heard. Also, upwards of 1,000 people forced out by these fires and 28 properties destroyed. 24 active wildfires are burning in Manitoba. Officials say 6 need the most attention. And as of 9 this morning, in just an hour, Whiteshell Provincial Park will close. Year-round residents, business owners, visitors will have to be out of there by 1 this afternoon. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Now, some light rain in the downtown in Winnipeg. It's 10 degrees, and today we're going to have gusty winds, a high of 24, risk of a thunderstorm this afternoon, and still widespread smoke. It's going to get colder over the next couple of days. Rain with a risk of a thunderstorm and active rain in Brandon in the west right now, and unfortunately not so much in the east where we need it. We have air quality statements, though, so be careful, especially if you're living in a zone around the fire areas. Corey Funk is in the RM of Lac du Bonny today. He's actually right in the town of Lac du Bonny this morning. He's going to have the mayor of that town on with him coming up after 8 o'clock. And he's at the community center. So Corey had been at Drifters talking to evacuees and finding out what was happening. That's a restaurant in the area and hotel. And it's interesting because one of the evacuees said they're not sure if they'll get a room tonight. It's just so busy, even though other people workers in the area, for example, have given up their rooms to evacuees. So the community center is another area where people have been sleeping. So Corey's going to have a live report from Lac du Bonny coming up after 8 o'clock. Stay right here. We've got you covered. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at Information Radio on CBC.
On Cue with Tom Power. When the Canadian musician Luke Halla was a kid, she got bullied. But she says her response to that was to try and become as confident as possible. And that attitude has led to her having hit songs around the world about not letting others tear you down. That's coming up on Cue, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Measles has been spreading in several provinces to case numbers not seen in years for a disease recently considered eliminated in Canada. We will take you to one of the communities seeing a rise in cases to look at what's led to the outbreak that's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Turkey for peace talks with his Russian counterpart, but Vladimir Putin won't be there.
Ready to negotiate, and it is Russia that must take the next step. Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson says Vladimir Putin was the one who initiated direct talks, adding the Russian delegation in Istanbul is ready for serious work.
It's not a serious delegation.
Alex Younger is the former head of the British intelligence agency MI6.
Head of delegation is a former culture minister and amateur historian.
Vladimir Medinsky is a Kremlin aide. He's heading up the Russian delegation. He was involved in talks in 2022, which failed. The two leaders have not met face-to-face in 6 years.
Whatever the process is.
Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State who is in Turkey for a NATO foreign ministers meeting, says there is no military solution to the conflict.
And the sooner an agreement can be reached on ending this war, less people will die.
Ukrainians have endured 3 years of Russian bombardments as Russian forces fight to seize more Ukrainian territory. Neither country releases information on battlefield casualties, but estimates are in the hundreds of thousands. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
U.S. President Donald Trump is on day 3 of his 4-day trip to the Middle East. He is now in the United Arab Emirates. Earlier in the day, Trump spoke to the media while in Qatar. He hinted a deal with Iran over its nuclear program may be close.
I want them to succeed. I want them to end up being a great country, frankly, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. And I think we're getting close to maybe doing a deal without having to do this. There's 2 steps. There's a very, very nice step, and there's a violent step. The violence like people haven't seen before. I hope we're not going to have to do this. I don't want to do the second step. Some people do. Many people do. I don't want to do that step.
Trump has repeatedly threatened to bomb Iran if a nuclear deal, cannot be reached. U.S. and Iranian teams have been meeting with Omani mediators over the last few weeks. Iran denies any deal being close. Our colleagues at Radio-Canada have learned the Bloc Québécois intends to launch a legal challenge to the election results in the Montreal area riding of Terrebonne. The Bloc candidate there lost by just one vote, and a voter has come forward saying her mail-in ballot was sent back to her. She says she voted for the Bloc. Enbridge has agreed to sell a minority stake in its West Coast natural gas pipeline system to a group of 36 First Nations in BC. The sale is worth more than $700 million and gives the First Nations group a 12% stake. The pipeline runs from Fort Nelson all the way south to the Canada-U.S. border. The federal government is supporting the deal with a loan guarantee. Enbridge says the agreement builds on its existing relationship with Indigenous communities and helps to advance reconciliation. Prime Minister Mark Carney's government says it is taking immediate action to improve the lives of Canadians. But a federal budget isn't coming anytime soon. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne says there will be just an update this year, a fall economic statement. Janice McGregor is in our parliamentary bureau. And Janice, the Liberals were elected on a platform full of budgetary promises. What is going on here?
Marcia, it was clear from the photo op yesterday that Mark Carney's government intended the day's headline to be that they're dropping the income tax payable on Canadians' first $57,000 of income from 15% to 14%. But without including this as part of a larger budget, the House of Commons is going to be asked to approve it without clarity on how it fits into the government's bigger fiscal plan. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne was out defending this as a consequence of the spring's tight schedule.
Timing issue in the sense that first you need to Parliament is going to come back. We're going to table legislation to enable the tax cut.
Champagne said his economic update isn't going to come until the fall. Former parliamentary budget officer Kevin Page finds that unsustainable and unacceptable.
The bond rating agencies, they're not going to like the fact that the government is not producing this type of financial document.
The government has been financing its operations using special warrants all spring. The Commons has to pass a series of votes to properly authorize ongoing spending before the summer. But without a budget, MPs are going to vote on those without critical context.
When Parliament comes back, the Liberals need to establish that they have the confidence of the House. How will this decision affect that?
Well, if that first confidence vote is about this income tax cut, well, that's pretty hard for Conservatives to vote against. Pierre Poilievre, though, was scathing in a social media post, saying Mark Carney had campaigned on the slogan of plan beats no plan. But he's now confirmed that, in fact, he has no plan by not tabling a budget, an abandonment of the leadership that the Prime Minister had promised.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Canada's condo market is cooling in some of the country's most unaffordable cities. Toronto is reporting the steepest drop in prices and sales, with Vancouver not too far behind. The problem is not enough buyers. Nisha Patel explains why.
We haven't seen that much inventory in 20 years.
Toronto real estate agent Sean Miller says new listings are piling up on the condo market. Units that once would have sold in days can now take weeks.
We've got 7 months of inventory, which is insane, and we just don't have the buyers to absorb it.
Experts say it's a buyer's market, but there are few buyers to be found, says Bank of Montreal senior economist Robert Kavchik.
Federal policymakers have put a cap on immigration. Population growth is falling off very quickly. You have a historically high number of purpose-built rental units.
Investors are trying to unload their units, turned off by falling rents and higher borrowing costs. Demand for pre-construction condos has almost entirely disappeared.
We're pretty much at a recession in the condo market.
The downturn is concentrated in the largest cities where condo sales have tumbled. In Toronto, prices have slipped 16% from the market peak in 2022. In Vancouver, they're down 9%. And there's another factor that's chilling the market.
Tariffs. It's a beautiful word, isn't it?
Amid the trade war with the U.S., unemployment in Canada is on the rise, and consumer confidence is shaky. Miller, the real estate agent, says many buyers have put major purchases on hold.
A small interest rate reduction in June could make things improve a little bit for a period of time. But
still, economists forecast that in some markets, condo prices could fall another 10% this year. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
This week is the 25th anniversary of Walkerton, Ontario's water crisis, Canada's worst ever E. coli contamination. 7 people died and more than 2,000 people became sick in the spring of 2000. Water from a storm washed over a farmer's field and into one of the town's wells. Andrew Lipton reports.
It was terrifying.
25 years since watching her daughter cling to life in hospital, Trudy Fraser will never forget what happened in Walkerton.
The doctors told me probably the day or two after she got there that she probably wasn't going to live.
At the time, her daughter Alyssa was 17.
And the Catholic priest came in and asked if he could pray for me. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm dying.
Now 42, she lives with health challenges, including low kidney function. A public inquiry pointed to dangerous incompetence and how the town's water system was managed. Now Walkerton is home to a clean water center where water system workers are trained. Brian Bates is the CEO.
Prior to the tragedy, a lot of small communities didn't have access to that training. Here it's, again, standardized best practices, learning all the time.
Mayor Chris Peabody said the scars of Walkerton have been slow to heal.
Many people who were traumatized by this do not want to relive it.
In the years that followed the tragedy, growth in the town flatlined. A stigma followed what happened, but the town has been able to battle back. When Walkerton needed a hotel and banks wouldn't float a loan, locals invested their own money to get it built.
People worked together. As a community, the people didn't turn on each other, they worked together.
Trudy Fraser continues that spirit. Now a proud grandmother, she donates time to tend to a community garden that commemorates the tragedy. It features a large stone set in a stream of running water. The words etched into the rock say it's dedicated to the spirit of the people of Walkerton, to all who suffered and all who died. Andrew Lupton, CBC News, Walkerton, Ontario.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
By Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We are live in downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM and 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Thanks for being with us. We've had some light rain that's made the downtown a little bit wet this morning. We do need rain in other parts of the province drastically as we continue to watch what is happening with the wildfires. This is somewhat of a special edition of our program this morning. Corey Funk is live in Lac du Bonnet. He's been there all morning. He has taken us through a number of, different places. He was on the dock looking at the water, talking about the conditions and the weather there. He's also been talking to evacuees and the head of the RM. This half hour, he's going to be talking to the mayor of Lac du Bonnet outside of one of the evacuation centers, which is the community center. So stay tuned. Corey will be live from Lac du Bonnet in this half hour. We also are going to hear directly from another evacuee from the area about how his family's been finding support and figuring out what the next steps are if they are wondering as they wonder whether or not they're going to lose their home. So lots of stress on a lot of Manitoba families this morning. And of course, we also lost 2 Manitobans yesterday to fire. So we'll walk you through all of it. Heather Wells will start us off from our news center live. She has the very latest. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, a deadly turn to Manitoba's wildfire fight. Now Lac du Bonnet is grieving the deaths of 2 people, the bodies of a man and woman recovered by police near Lac du Bonnet. RCMP say they got a report Tuesday 2 people had been trapped, but extreme conditions kept police away from them, kept them from reaching them until yesterday. Now, if you are in Whiteshell Provincial Park, as of 9 o'clock this morning, that park closes. Anyone who is still in the park must be out by 1 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to hear from business owners coming up. We are also going to hear from Premier Wap Kinew talking about these wildfires. He is speaking with reporters at 9 o'clock this morning, and you can hear his comments live right here. We will carry Premier Wap Kinew and the latest on the wildfires coming up at 9 o'clock right here on CBC Radio 1.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
So let's take a bit of a count here, a look around, a summary. 25 active wildfires in the province, just to repeat some of this. 6 officials are saying need the most attention. So the one at Nopaming Provincial Park, however, which is more than 100,000 hectares, double the size size of Winnipeg, as Heather's been saying, is one that we is too dangerous to be in and fighting right now. So you're going to see fires that are out of control on the map, and a lot of people may be wondering why isn't the attention given there, and that is why. So we're going to be hearing more all about this, as Heather mentioned, the Premier live at 9. We will carry that right here. And Chloe Friesen is live right now. Have a look around at what's happening. I mentioned, Chloe, downtown Winnipeg got a little bit of rain.
Yeah, we are seeing thunder showers here in the city of Winnipeg, making roads a bit wet out there. We're also looking at a lot of rain in southwestern Manitoba. There's a rainfall warning for Melita, Boissevain, Turtle Mountain Provincial Park areas, Souris included. So looking at 50 to 70 millimeters of rain into Friday afternoon. As well, of course, air quality warnings in effect for parts of southern Manitoba and a lot of the province. So that smoke is causing some poor air quality and reduced visibility. An update around the province here right now, as I mentioned in Winnipeg, 10 degrees, thunder showers. We're looking at a high of 24. That risk of a thunderstorm is happening as we speak. In Brandon, 7 degrees in Brandon, mostly cloudy skies. The rain has stopped in Brandon with a high of 15. In Dauphin, 6 degrees, light rain in Dauphin, a high of 8 degrees. 10 degrees at the moment in Gimli. Of course, an air quality warning in effect for that region. A high of 19, so it's going to get warm in Gimli. In Thompson, 2 degrees, mostly cloudy skies, looking at a high of 6. In Churchill, -3 degrees, cloudy skies, high of +2 in Churchill. I do want to mention we have some rain chances of showers in the Whiteshell Lactabani area, so hopefully that is something that we see. 30% chance of showers this morning, 60% chance of showers this afternoon, and of course widespread smoke in those areas. I've been getting more calls on the commuter line from many folks here, so thank you for those calls. There's my page here. I heard from Shelley. She lives north of Gimli. She says big thunder showers out in that area. Highway 8 is quite wet, but the sun was peeking through when she called, and she said she is trying to urge it towards Lactabani. She says her heart goes out to all the folks affected by those wildfires. We got a call from the St. Vital import who mentioned a bit of a mystery to him on St. Mary's. He said with this rain, there's some frothy water. So the street is kind of frothy. That's the word he used. From about Bishop.
That's my reaction.
I know. Ooh. From it's white Bishop Grandin to about Taché. He says very strange. He's never seen it before. So if anyone knows what this is, he'd love to hear it. I've got a theory it could do with the street cleaning.
Oh, yeah,
in some capacity.
Which then is not which is clean.
So if you see that, let me know if you know what that's about. Also, a few construction spots I do want to mention that might slow you down. Northbound Pembina from Chancellor Matheson just over the Abinogi-Meekina on the overpass there. You lose your left lane. A very busy time this time of day. As well, St. Vital Bridge, we're looking at construction. Reduced to 1 lane per in each direction till June 27th. Significant delays on Dunkirk and Fermor heading north towards the bridge. I would suggest finding some alternate routes there. If you have anything to add, the number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you, Chloe Friesen. Well, we are hearing from people on Facebook. Just a couple quick comments before we take you live back out to Lactabani and Corey Funk. Bill Ledger wrote in that my friend lost her family house. She lives in the city, but Lactabani, this place was her sane space. She's a single mom of 2. She was informed yesterday. People are just sharing stories of the loss here, including the loss of life. But Lisa McEd said in Woodridge last night, some stressful time, she said, being evacuated, and she was on edge waiting to hear if she would be, and she said sending prayers in the Woodridge area. And then I read this earlier, but Dennis Cron said, I'm still seeing smokers throw lit cigarette butts out car windows. So, I mean, it should go without saying, this is a very dangerous situation all over Manitoba. Very, very dry, even though we're getting some rain this morning in some parts. If you're in an area that is threatened, you really need to be mindful. And that goes for ATVs. There's bans on that. That goes for, of course, any kind of fires. And then a question that we can't answer yet, but this will become interesting as we hear our next interview. Terry Solomon wrote in, can volunteers with no firefighting experience help in any way with wildfires in the Whiteshell East or in the Lactabani area? So we will seek for some answers to that right now. Obviously, the answer is you're not going to be going anywhere to just say I'm volunteering to fight a fire. But could they? What are the needs there for help, and where does that lie? We'll hear more from the Premier at 9. It's 8:17 now, and why I said that question is going to be interesting is because the need for firefighting help is actually on the mind of the mayor of Lac du Bonnet. He is Corey Funk's guest. Corey is live, and where are you right now, Corey, then?
So I'm just outside the community center right now, which in the past 48 hours or so has become an evacuation center for people in the surrounding area. Lots of people came here in the past little while to register. Not sure how many at this point, but when I look around here in the parking lot, actually, there's a couple of trailers. People have set up kind of camp here as well, evacuees. And here, actually, in Lac du Bonnet right now, as you can tell, it's actually quite clear. There was a thunder cloud earlier kind of approaching the town, but it seems to kind of have evaded it. And I'm sure Ken Lodge here, the mayor, is not happy to see that. It's smoky. It is clear. It is crisp. All the things that you don't really want right now in town, isn't it there, Ken?
It certainly is. We're hoping for no wind and hopefully to get us some severe heavy showers later on with no lightning. Certainly that'll go a long ways to helping to alleviate the situation that's out here right now. On this side of the river, on the west side of the Winnipeg River on Lac du Bonnet, we're pretty safe right now as it is because we don't have a large forested area right around the community of the town of Lac du Bonnet. But we stand ready to respond to pretty much anything that the RM, the rural municipality, would require in effect for services, help in any way we can offer. We're ready to go. It's part of our emergency measures organization plan, which I believe they've really handled well, despite some of the, I guess, obstacles that they were up against over the course of the last 2 days, not to least of which being the speed of which it occurred and I guess continued to burn. Today, it appears that they're putting out hotspots and trying to do an assessment of what's going on out in the area on the east side of the Winnipeg River. And they may allow some people limited back to do some assessment. Not every place was burnt, but it was quite a significant fire.
And so give us a sense a little bit about what the town has done to step up to help people in the community. I don't know if there's any stories that stand out to you. Obviously, there is this evacuation center behind us here, but what else have people been doing?
Well, people have been offering up their homes and rooms in their homes to allow people to come and stay close into the community if they didn't necessarily have a place to go. The businesses in town are stepping up and offering whatever is needed to help to fight the fire, as well as provide food and sustenance of other types to the workers and the firefighters that are out there actually doing everything they possibly can to save both lives and property.
So at this point, based on what you know of the fire, how concerned are you right now for the safety of Lac du Bonnet? Obviously, it's been unscathed so far, but what are your concerns right now?
I think primarily right now is to ensure that the fires in the immediate vicinity are out and controlled, as well as ensuring that people are aware that the atmospheric conditions here, the air conditions are very, very poor, and they should try to stay indoors. And of course, if they are outdoors, be very fire smart. You don't want to have power equipment. You don't want to be having any open fires of any kind right now. If you're doing that, it's definitely a bad decision.
And as much as there's no fire here, obviously, I can feel the smoke in my throat already right now. So clearly there's a public health concern going on right now. In terms of, the fact that it is only May, have you seen fires this early and this big in the community? In your time, you've grown up in this area. Well, how unprecedented is this for the area?
I'm going to say it's quite unprecedented. Normally during May, we still, quite frequently have snow on the ground. And of course, we're getting into the May shower scenario. This year was truly an exception. We did not have a lot of snow cover. And when it did go, it melted really fast. And we've had virtually no rain for the course of the last month. We've had a few showers, but nothing significant. And as you can see by looking around, things are not greening up particularly quick, primarily because of the lack of moisture. And with the heat that we've had, it exacerbates the problem. Traditionally, we've had small fires that would crop up that were, generally speaking, handled very quickly and effectively by our volunteer fire department. There has been the odd occasion where we've had water bombers come out to, drop some water on a particular hotspot, but the fires were not at this extent. And it is truly unprecedented for us.
So how does this make you think then, in going forward in the future about how to best protect the town from fire if this may very well become the new norm?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that people have to be aware of the combustible loading in the immediate areas of their properties, their homes, and try to keep that controlled, to keep the potential of the fire down around their immediate property. We can't control the weather, obviously, So you just have to do what you can do around your immediate area. Now, secondly, I guess probably most importantly, is when those situations do occur, we've been very fortunate. We have some heroes here in our community, and that's our volunteer fire department as well as our EMO organization. And these people are very effective and they're very dedicated. One of the long-term problems we have is, of course, and probably most communities, ensuring that our volunteer fire departments are adequately staffed. We have ongoing training with the volunteer fire departments that we do have, volunteer firefighters that we do have, but it's a lengthy process to get them up and qualified. And you have to remember that all of our volunteer firefighters, almost all of them, actually are employed elsewhere. And there is issues in respect to employers allowing the firefighters to leave to go and fight the fire.
I understand that's been the case with this fire, actually.
To a certain extent, yes. I mean, also, people's availability for other reasons can be limited, since you have to have a good pool of firefighters to draw upon, because not everybody can respond. There's families, there's work, there's other situations that may not be here. So you really need to have that extra large pool of people. And I would encourage people to join up and participate in our volunteer fire department, because it's one way that certainly is demonstrable that you can contribute to the community.
And what needs to change to actually make it easier for people to, or more appealing for people to actually sign up as a volunteer firefighter in your community?
Well, I guess it's hard to get people too enthused about getting up in the middle of the night to go and fight a house fire. But the reality of it is very rewarding, even though it is very terrifying at the time for both the property owners as well as the firefighters, because they want to put that fire out and they cannot put themselves at risk in order to help everybody else. Some of the things that would probably help us out was that if we had some form of legislation that allowed firefighters leave from their places of work and some form of compensation, so that they would be able to go and fight those fires, especially in the smaller communities. It's very difficult, and we rely upon those heroes that come out time after time after time to look out after us. And I can't say enough. They are heroes, and I hope that their stories get told after this event, because there is some real stories to be told.
Have you heard any that stand out to you?
Well, I know in one case where our fire department actually drove through fire in order to get to the north side of the fire in order to protect Grousden Point, Cape Copper Mine areas, in order to establish another fire line to prevent it from going into those heavily developed areas. So they had to put a lot of work in, and they had to actually put their own fears to the side and drive through the fire to get there. I mean, of course, they're on the road, but fire on both sides of the road, and there's definitely risk there. And just individual risk when they're performing their tasks out there. They don't know what they're up against, so can't say enough. These people were spectacular. And even the province, I mean, they responded quickly with the water bombers. They were hard put, but one of the negatives was that, from what I heard, I did not witness it myself, was that people were flying drones around trying to get views of their property and such, and that compromised the activities of the water bombers. And that really is unacceptable. People need to stop, think about what they're doing. Their properties are being protected to the best of their ability, and anything else that they could be doing is probably interfering with those activities. So we want to make sure that the firefighters have every opportunity, whether it be water bombers or the people on the ground, to work as safely as possible and not be compromised by somebody else's activities.
I also understand, on top of the devastating loss of property that we're hearing about anecdotally, there's also been loss of life. How has that been reverberating throughout the community?
Well, it is truly reverberating through the community. Our feelings are with the family and friends of those individuals. I do not have the names of those individuals as of now, but nonetheless, these people are residents of our community, and they're our friends, our family, and I think it's devastating personally. Even if I don't know those people personally, they're part of my community. And to me, that is valuable. That's, like, as far as I'm concerned, being right next to family. Mm-hmm. And we need to look out after each other. And we are very resilient here. We will come through this, but it's going to be extraordinarily hurtful knowing that this had happened and we couldn't do anything about it. And that's frustrating. We never want to have any loss of life, whether it be, friends, family, pets, it doesn't matter. It is a significant loss, and our community will feel that for a significant period of time.
And before I let you go here, it sounds like the conditions are somewhat improving with the fire from what we've heard so far. Obviously, things can always change. But in the coming days and weeks, what does your community need to get through this? What are you hoping for? What are you be talking? I know you spoke with the Premier the other day. What are you hoping to see for your community in the coming days?
Well, I guess what I'm hoping is to continue to see everybody pull together to support those people that have had losses. I don't think that I have to hope. I know that that's going to occur. The province needs to, I believe, analyze, as well as our municipalities need to analyze, I guess, overall how it occurred and some of the things that we can do to help to mitigate some of those situations in the future. But truly, we need to have the proper programs and proper people in place in order to be able to respond to these situations. And it's an ongoing process, and it ebbs and flows. People will come, they get older, they retire, and then we have to go in the recruitment mode. So the province can help in ensuring that we have funding and we knock down the barriers to ensuring that if people want to participate in a volunteer fire department, they can. And the communities will benefit from that. And I believe the entire province would benefit from that because we have a larger pool of people that can respond in those situations.
Mayor Ken Lodge, thanks for joining us, and all the best as you help fight these fires and help the community recover.
Thank you very much. Hope you have a much better day than we've had over the last couple.
Me too. Thank you very much, and back to you, Marcy.
All right, thanks very much, Corey. Corey out with the mayor of Lac Du Bonnet, the town outside of the community center, the community hall behind them. He's live there this morning. Corey is in Lac Du Bonnet, and that is where people were evacuated to yesterday, one of the places where people were. We'll have more stories of those evacuees throughout the day, by the way, so stay tuned to hear those. We also have a live call-in today on Radio Noon between 12:30 and 1, and it is about wildfires. Hi, Marjorie Dalhouse.
Hi, Marcy. We're going to be talking to a climate change expert and a lead researcher who has studied years and years of climate change data and wildfire data. He will break down some of the information that he has about Manitoba and our situation here when it comes to climate change and what that means for wildfire seasons moving forward here in Manitoba, as well as this year. So we're inviting you to call in today on Radio Noon. Maybe there's a story you'd like to share. Maybe there's some important information that you want to get out there to folks who may be affected by this. Maybe there's a kind gesture that you want to offer to people who have been displaced. So give us a call after 12:30, and we're going to have more on the fire situation here in Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Marjorie.
Thanks, Marcy.
Well, to this hour, more questions and answers about some of the things that the province is going to be able to come through with. Premier Rob Canoe live here on CBC at 9 o'clock. Right now, to tee it all up, here's Heather Wells with your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, we've had some welcome rain. Expect more showers around noon in Winnipeg. A strong east wind today and a high of 24. As we've been hearing, a devastating week as wildfire near Lac Du Bonnet becomes deadly. The bodies of a man and woman trapped by the fire were recovered yesterday. RCMP first got the report 2 people had been trapped on Tuesday, but they couldn't reach them because of the extreme conditions. Officials continue to assess the situation. The Reeve of the RM of Lac Du Bonnet, Lauren Schinkel, has been into the fire zone to see what's been burned. He's also seen video collected by emergency workers.
Frankly, it's devastating. It's heart-wrenching. It's, we lost 28 dwellings in that area. And then it goes without saying the loss of life in that area. It just, you can't really describe it in words.
Schinkel urges people not to use drones to check their properties. He says drones mean water bombers and helicopters can't fly in the area. Shirley Oliver had to get out with just the clothes on her back and medication in her purse when Pinawa Bay was evacuated. She is now staying at Drifters Inn in Lac Du Bonnet along with dozens of other evacuees. With the inn filled with workers as well, Oliver doesn't know how long she'll be able to stay. She says those workers are trying to help.
And they all took off and said that they would go back to Winnipeg or wherever to let the rooms be free, for people like me. So that freed it up yesterday. That's why I was able to get in yesterday. But I don't know about tonight.
Oliver says she has never experienced anything like this. The wildfires are dealing a heavy blow to vacationers and businesses in and around one of Manitoba's largest and most popular provincial parks. No one will be allowed to enter Whiteshell Provincial Park as of 9 this morning, in less than half an hour. And everyone who is in the park now has to be out by 1 this afternoon. Sean Harbottle owns Crescent Beach Cottages at West Hawk Lake. He says closing the whole park is a knee-jerk decision.
We have no say. If we were an RM, it'd be go to a council, they'd have a vote, and they would decide what to do. We have no say in this.
May long weekend marks the start of the summer season, and Harbottle says the decision to close the park is going to have a big impact on his bottom line. Greg Fatoma owns Brereton Lake Resort. While he agrees with the province's decision to close the park, it means a loss for his business as well during what he says is the most profitable time of the season.
May long weekend is the guaranteed big weekend for all of us out here in the park, all the resorts. We rely on it. We rely on the fact that people come through our door, utilize our services, and enjoy the park so that we can pay our bills and continue on to do our business.
Fatoma says the resort was fully booked for the weekend, and now he is forced to provide refunds until the park reopens. We are about to hear the latest on these wildfires from Premier Wab Kinew. He speaks with reporters at 9 this morning in half an hour, and you can hear the Premier live right here on CBC Radio. We are also live streaming his media conference on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Well, rural Conservative MLAs say some Manitobans can't get through to 911 in a wildfire emergency. Conrad North lives near Zoda in southeast Manitoba. His neighbor's garage was destroyed by wildfire this week. North says another neighbor tried to call 911 to get help. After a few attempts, they then called the fire chief on his cell phone. North says crews were able to save his neighbor's home.
It's concerning for my constituency right now, being under immediate risk of active wildfires, that as people's homes are under threat, that they won't be able to access 911 services.
The Tories believe it is a problem with the service provider. They say the infrastructure minister is responsible for 911 services and should investigate. A McGregor area farmer says he is down a farm truck this summer as he waits for his stolen vehicle to get repaired. Clint Sigurdsson called shops from Winnipeg to Virden looking for help getting his recovered truck fixed. He says they all told him they don't take stolen vehicle claims. Winnipeg mechanic Johnny Vernaus says shops are hesitant to take these jobs from MPI.
Or they can pay, more to get it done. Administration fee, maybe storage for the vehicle when it's here. We have to get paid. You know what I mean? We've got better work in the shop than that.
MPI reported 3,141 stolen vehicles in 2024. The insurer says it is now exploring letting vehicles get temporary repairs to get them back on the road until full repairs can be done. To the Stanley Cup playoffs now, and the Edmonton Oilers are moving on to the Western Conference Finals.
It's loose! It's in! Edmonton has won the game and the series! Kasperi Kapanen in overtime!
Edmonton beating the Vegas Golden Knights 1-0 last night, wrapping their second-round series in 5 games. The Florida Panthers beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 6-1. Florida now leads that series 3-2. And in Winnipeg, it's do or die for the Jets tonight, facing elimination against the Dallas Stars. Dallas leads the series 3-1. It's a late start here at Canada Life Centre at 8:30. You can find more news updated throughout the day, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather Wells.
You're welcome.
Big thanks to our news department. So today on our live team out there, of course, Heather Wells, Megan Ketchison, and Aaron Broman. Thanks to our live team on the show. So Corey in the field this morning, Alak Dabani, Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi behind the controls, our YouTube producer, Brad Lillies, and Chloe Friesen, who we'll hear from in a moment on weather and traffic. Our associate producers who had contributions in the show, Chidi Akuma, Carmen Ponto, and Sierra Sanders. So big thanks to all of you. Nellie Gonzalez is the show producer overall of all the shows in our current affairs unit. Leif Larson, senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba. Premier coming up at 9 o'clock. Last look at weather traffic quick with Chloe.
Rainfall warning in the southwest part of the province. Air quality warning for much of the province due to wildfire smoke. Some rain on highways as well throughout the province. Looking at some construction zones, St. Vital Bridge, traffic reduced down to 1 lane in each direction as well. Northbound Pembina, also slow.